The Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12-hour is fast becoming a GT classic. Amazing cars, international drivers, and an awesome piece of racetrack.
These are the cars people dream about, the brands that we aspire to own. Ferrari, Lamborghini, Porsche, Audi, Nissan, Mercedes, McLaren. Driven by some of the world's most highly coveted racers, masters of their trade. Mount Panorama is their place of business. Once known as the Gold Country, now the spiritual home of motor racing for Aussie and international motorsport fans alike. A place where speed and endurance are everything, and where drama is routine. Drivers must endure 12 grueling hours of some of the most feared yet respected tarmac. It is a challenge that man and machine struggle to meet.
Oh, there it goes. 1, 2, 3, 4 spins. Oh, it's torrential at the top of the mountain. There's no way. And Gisbergen's lost the front end of the Porsche.
A challenge that delivers heartbreak or pure delight. It is a challenge called the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12-hour.
Hi everyone and welcome to Mount Panorama for the 2014 Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12-hour, the 12th running of this race, which is fast becoming a must-attend on the GT motor racing calendar. Would you believe we've done over 220 laps of racing? We've gone past three-quarter race distance with some under 3 hours left running in this race. It's becoming a fight between Ferrari, between McLaren and between Mercedes-Benz. It's been an amazing day at the office. We had 40 cars start this race at 6:15 a.m. local time this morning. In fact, we've lost 4 cars before we even made the grid this morning through practice and qualifying over the previous 2 days. Weather conditions here at Mount Panorama have been very, very warm. 37 degrees Celsius right here at the moment, with track temperatures of over 50 degrees. So far today, the reigning champions of this race, Erebus Motorsport GT, have dominated. Their pole position car with the German drivers Bernd Schneider, Maro Engel and Nico Bastian dominated this race, but some 45 minutes ago, a brake drama has dropped them back in the order, and it's brought an old Bathurst favourite right up to the front. Craig Lowndes took the lead in the Maranello Motorsport Ferrari. Mick Asalo, the former Formula One driver, is behind the wheel at the moment, but we are counting down to the end. This is very much turning into a fight between Mercedes-Benz with Will Davison at the helm, the McLaren of the Quins, father and son, Tony and Clark, and V8 face Shane van Gisbergen, and of course the Ferrari that leads the way. But to take us through what's happened so far today, let's head to the commentary team. It's a g'day and welcome this afternoon to Richard Craill.
Thanks, Noons. It's been an amazing day at Mount Panorama, and there's only one way to describe it. It's been Bathurst. Welcome to the show, everybody, and welcome to these two, our international guests as part of our commentary team today, Paul Truswell and John Hindhoff. Gentlemen, welcome to Mount Panorama.
It's great to be back here, Crailsy, and you know the RadioLeMans.com team love coming to this race. Our first time here last year, and what a fantastic opener it's been. Here's how it started at 6:15 this morning, just about dawn. Peter Cox's bad luck on the mountain continues. He hit a roo and put the 23 car out. Also caused a bit of strife for the 63 Erebus Mercedes. Seemingly harmless spin there for the 33, but the next time we saw it, it was in a world of trouble right at the top of the mountain. This is 160, 170k left-hander. It's bad enough that he's facing the wrong direction, but look at the liquids to the left of the picture there. And I'm afraid that caused a bit of carnage. One of the Audis hit the wall. Good miss by the Porsche, but wait, because there's a Nissan coming. and that was a huge hit.
Hiroshi Hamaguchi was in the Ferrari, and the Nissan contacted big time, but both drivers are okay. That was what was left of the Nissan GTR, the works return of Godzilla to the mountain for 22 years, and there was debris all over the circuit. This was a bit later on. The leaders were involved in a massive fight, and they passed a lapped Lamborghini. It was driven by Ross Lilly and Bathurst champion Stephen Richards, and that had a very big crash at the top of Mount Panorama, bringing out another safety car.
But once again, the safety features of the FIA GT3 cars meant the driver was all right. This is the comedy moment of the day so far. Bit of help from the marshals. That's been all over social media. You've probably already seen it. And then let's just defy physics. Down through the SS side by side. Yeah, all right. Down through the Dimmer side by side. It can't happen. Somebody's going to go off. But they didn't.
And that's Shane van Gisbergen versus Bernd Schneider for the lead of the motor race midway through today. And then the lead changed, and Van Gisbergen has been absolutely flying. He's broken the lap record, the fastest man ever around Mount Panorama. And then it got insane. He dived up the inside of the Ferrari of Mika Salo at the top of the mountain. And when these guys were in front, they ran across the road and caused some damage to the #1 car.
Might have had an issue, that might have caused the issue with the rear brakes that saw them not be able to get away. The rear rotor was changed, but they lost 6 laps in the pits. That's around about 15, 16 minutes. And that put the 88 car into the lead. Now, look at the board on the right-hand side, leaning up against the pit building there. It's outside the red line. It's still outside the red line. When the 88 is down and away, that's an infringement and a drive-through penalty.
And Craig Lowndes behind the wheel at the time, not his fault, but had to serve a penalty, but he continues to lead the race. Well, his teammate does. Mika Salo, the former Formula 1 driver, leads on the Pirelli outright leaderboard. Shane van Gisbergen is second behind the wheel of the Tony Quinn entered McLaren. Harold Primar in third place behind the wheel of the HTP Mercedes-Benz SLS. And Aussie legend Greg Crick runs fourth at the moment for Erebus Motorsport, still very much in this race. The German Phoenix Audi squad run fifth at the moment, ahead of the Anglo-American United Autosport Audi team. They run sixth. Bernd Schneider, 7th place.
Now looking at the classes, and there's 6 different classes out there on the Michelin class leaderboard, where we've told you about Mika Salo. Ben Barker's inside the top 10 for the GWS Class B Porsche, and the rest of the guys are battling through for the next 2 hours and 37 minutes. There is the 88 Ferrari, which leads the motor race by something in the region of 24 seconds. And Van Gisbergen has been set to full attack mode. We've just come off our 7th full course caution after one of the class leading cars, the number 17 Ginetta, was stalled on the Conrod Straight and had to be recovered. That bunched everybody up, but once again Mika Salo has punched the go button and pulled away.
And he's going a lot quicker at the moment than Shane van Gisbergen is. They've kind of got through the initial parts of the traffic, and now they're catching up again with the tail of the cars coming off the safety car that we've just had. But that gap was 18 seconds, and now, as John says, it was up to 23.
There is the orange McLaren in second position of Shane van Gisbergen. That's what it looks from on board that machine as he climbs the mountain straight. Now, the regulations state that any driver can only do 4.5 hours of the race, and he can only do 3 hours in one go. Shane van Gisbergen has already been in the car. That means he's only got 2 hours and 20 minutes left. We've got more than that. Well, he actually only had 2:20 left when he got in the car. We had more than that left. We need about 40 minutes from another driver in this 37 car. So SVG cannot go to the end of the motor race.
Correct. So there's more pit stops to come for all of our leading cars. In fact, everyone in the field, at least 2. And in one of those, there'll be a driver change for the VIP Pet Foods team. And we think it might be Andrew Kirkcaldy, Scottish driver, who helped develop this McLaren when it was first introduced to GT racing. But let's put this race into perspective, guys. 228 laps completed. Their working lap 229. That's 1,415 kilometres in the book so far. We're used to seeing 161 laps of Mount Panorama, which is 1,000 K. So they've gone way beyond what we're used to at Mount Panorama. Still 2 hours and 36 minutes remaining. We could be on course for a distance and lap record today. 292 laps, the record set back in 2011 by the winning Audi. 228, sorry, in the book so far.
And if you're watching and you haven't seen Mount Panorama since the great race back in October, one thing you'll notice is here, down through the chase, just how much smoother it is and how much darker the road surface is. That's because Bathurst Council has resurfaced the whole more than 6 kilometres of this fantastic racing circuit, public road for the rest of the year, by the way. And that has really made it a little bit smoother. It hasn't changed the character, thank goodness. It hasn't changed it as a challenge. One or two of the cambers, the way the road falls away, have just been smoothed out a little bit, but it is billiard table smooth, and even though it is super hot here at the moment, what you can't see is any tyre debris like you would in Formula One, no degradation, and that's because the track is very grippy, but it's not too abrasive. Let's head down to Noons in the pit lane. If you're going to have a great race like this, you need to have some great support, Noons.
Oh, John, you do absolutely. And Liqui-Moly are here for the second year in a row supporting the 12 hour, and Bruce Morris is with us. Bruce, this has been an amazing race. We've had the best weather possible. The international flavour continues to rise.
Oh, mate, it's been fantastic. This is really true endurance racing, and it's great for Australians to see when a race plays out this long. You can see how many things change, how someone can be a lap down, then they're not, how someone can be in front, then they're not. It's had everything, really. Just a spectacular day.
Who's looking strongest? Who's your expert tip for the race this afternoon? We've still got some 2 odd hours left.
Well, I backed anyone in the top 6 cars, so I had a safe bet there. But look, the McLaren's looking very strong. Van Gisbergen keeps putting that thing and wringing its neck. The Mercedes crew aren't out of that yet. And look at the Ferrari, like Micasalo can make that thing sing, and they got Craig Lowndes and John Bowers back up. This is going to be a real tight race for 3 cars.
Bruce, we'll let you enjoy it. Thanks for your support again.
Fantastic. Thanks to be here.
It's just an enthusiast, Bruce, to be honest. Now, here is the 51 Porsche in the GWS Personnel B class being pushed. That's not Porsche power, that's people power, and you don't like to see that at the pit lane. He's clearly had some strife out of the circuit because he's lost the rear valance.
Andrew McPherson behind the wheel owns this car, but they've had a very good combination so far. Ben Porter, young open wheel racer, and Garth Walton, who's the World Time Attack champion, fastest man ever around Eastern Creek Raceway in Sydney.
And we got a quick flash at the top of the mountain, by the way, of Damien Flack in the 19 Porsche in 11th position. Another B-class car for the older GT3s. Looked like he might have had a tyre issue as well. That's Micasalo in the Finnish colours on his helmet, the light blue and white, just knocking the window, just trying to get a little bit more air into that car. Extremely high temperatures here, 37 degrees Celsius and above, and that makes it probably 10 or 15, maybe even more degrees in the cockpit. No air conditioning in these cars. You are relying on air ducted through, and when the outside temperature is 37, you're not getting that much cooling effect. Here is the 63 Erebus racing car, the one without the right front fender. Both of the Erebus cars in shot there. The number 1 car we expected to be right in the play for the victory, but they've had those brake dramas, and now the Erebus flag being taken on by the 63 car.
And we should confirm these guys are in 3rd place. So Tasmanian driver Greg Crick behind the wheel at the moment, sharing with the young speedy Victorian Jack LeBrock and Will Davison, who we all know and love from Aussie V8 Supercars. They've had their share of dramas, and they're dropping up and down the timing monitor because they had an incident earlier on. You can see the damage on the right front corner, but it actually removed the timer from the car. So they're pushing the button manually in the building like they used to do here at Bathurst in the 60s and 70s to keep this car ticking over. But they are 3rd. They're going well. Greg Crick behind the wheel. And this is what happened. The Daytona Coupe in front, and just a slight misjudgment on the run into the dipper did the damage.
And that was the second hit that they'd had on the right front. They got caught up in the same incident that took Peter Cox out of the race in the Lamborghini early on when the local wildlife was involved. And why we're saying that is many of you, I know, will be following along on the Bathurst 12 Hours website, where there is live timing and scoring as well. You can see what we're seeing in the booth, and if you're going to use the social media, make sure you use the hashtag B12HR so that we can see what's going on here in the booth. So that is the 3rd place car coming down the Conrod Straight at the moment. You would think, wouldn't you, that people at Mercedes-Benz are pretty good at aero, so losing such a large amount of the front would have some real downsides in terms of performance. The guys are making a mockery out of it, as there is the 19 Porsche that we talked about earlier on with its tyre dramas just going through the shot there, but it looks like they're going to get that one back into the lane. And yet the 63 car, sans a front wing, still doing reasonably good lap times.
It makes you wonder why all these engineers and extremely impressive people worry about aerodynamics, only to the car to continue to pound around at race potentially winning pace, missing half of the front bodywork on it. So much in point to Will Davison, who did a superb job before he jumped out just recently. Greg Crick is behind the wheel of this car. We ride on board now, heading up Mountain Straight. It's a superb thing, big 6.3 litre AMG powered SLS, the famous gullwing, defending, winning team Erebus Motorsport here with the international drivers, and they were very, very strong here 12 months ago, and were strong today but Bathurst luck hasn't gone with them so far.
One or two of our viewers from the earlier portion of the broadcast and the radio show have been asking about what happens if one of those Mercedes, and let's hope it doesn't happen, ends up upside down. How do you get out? Because you've got gull-wing doors. It's a fine point, and we were talking about safety earlier on. The FIA mandated that because this car had gull wings, if that was to happen, there are explosive bolts in the top of the doors that you can fire out, and it basically blows the door seal so the driver can still get out. Normally, it's a lovely gull wing. It looks beautiful. But if the worst comes to the worst, it blows the door out and you can still get out of there. Let's go back down to Noons.
Well, John, pit lane has been where a lot of action has been today. We've got it really well covered with Grant Boyden, an old favourite, back with us today. Shay Adams back with us too from the United States. Grant, this has been a weird day at the office, but it's what we expect.
It's one of the strangest we've ever seen. This day started off, as soon as the first lap was completed, all hell broke loose. Then it just went quiet. Then another surge of all action. Hey, it's been quiet for the last hour or so, Aaron, so we're in for a thriller of a finish.
You know that the minute you say that, things start to happen, don't they? Shay Adam covers all of the big international GT races around the world. How does the 12-hour stack up?
It's up there with the best, for sure. When you bring in the international drivers to mix with the hometown favorites, you just get such a wonderful combination. It's a melting pot in this track. And to be honest, even though the temperatures may feel like melting, the racing is scorching.
16 nationalities in the field this weekend. We haven't had an Australian driver win this race since 2010. Could happen today.
Yeah, time to start looking at the stats because we're only a couple of pit stops away from the end of this race with 2.5 hours to run. We're live from the mountain. It's the Bathurst 12 hours with Liqui-Moly for 2014, and that's Erebus Mercedes-Benz still turning the lap times. Behind it is one of the Audis, and Audis came in fourth this year, Rich, and for a moment earlier on it seemed as though they were climbing up the leaderboard, but they've just dropped back a little bit now. We've got Ferrari from McLaren doing a great job from Mercedes-Benz. The best of the Audis is the number 3 from René Rast, but they're just off the lead lap.
Yeah, not quite been the most competitive package this weekend for whatever reason, but it's been remarkable as this race has evolved, the different kinds of brands that we've seen, especially in the top 3 outright. It's been unbelievable. So you can see it here. This is a great shot of an Audi R8 followed by a Porsche Cup car, and just behind them was one of the Lotus Exiges in the race. A fantastic little British sports car with the, I think, Toyota-based V6. They're running a very cool car, the Donut King entry. So it just shows the variety throughout this field, but for much of the day it's been Ferrari versus McLaren versus Mercedes versus Audi right at the very front, and they've all took a turn leading the race.
And that's 3 of the 6 classes on the front stretch at the same time as they go through Hell Corner and climb Mountain Straight. You know, the variety that we've got here, Shay Adam touched on it there as we're looking at the number 9 car sitting just on the 10th position and some 8 laps away from the leader. The variety that you get in sports car racing is the spice of this part of our lives. They look different, they sound different, and crucially I think they have different strengths and weaknesses. And what we've seen from the Audi is perhaps it's not the quickest car in a straight line, particularly the A-class cars with all of that aerodynamic additions on the car, but over the top of the mountain they are between 2.5 and 3 seconds faster than a V8 supercars. Now just think of that for a moment. From the cutting to the Forest Elbow, 2.5 or 3 seconds quicker than a V8 supercar.
And in ultimate pace as well, their times this weekend have been incredible. In fact, Shane van Gisbergen earlier today on lap 98, seems like an eternity ago now, set the fastest lap ever recorded by a car with a roof at Mount Panorama. 2 minutes, 3 seconds, 0.85, 203.85. Quicker than they qualified by less than half a tenth, it must be said, but quicker than they qualified yesterday. An unbelievable lap when he was in the middle of a very good fight for the lead with this car.
Last year's winners, of course, Bernd Schneider had a banner year in 2013. Won all bar one of the endurance races that he contested for Mercedes-Benz. They were the early favourites and dominated the race earlier on, but the issues have been legion for this car. Bernd Schneider uncharacteristically rattled by Shane van Gisbergen after a great scrap. and causing a bit of damage on the back when he went off the circuit, and then extra time spent in the pits.
It was a remarkable fight, wasn't it, between the two of them, and Van Gisbergen hunted Schneider down, having been further back in the field after a safety car. So this is earlier in the stages of this motor race, and it was relentless for lap after lap, 4 hours into a 12-hour race. It was like a 2-hour sprint race. It was incredible, and they were dicing, swapping positions back and forth, and some very, very close moments that we thought would end in disaster with cars parked against concrete barriers, but somehow they got away. But the level and the quality at the front was unbelievable. This was a big moment. We saw the Lamborghini crash at the top of the show just behind them as the leaders went through, but this fight continued on, and that's where Ross Lilly unfortunately found the wall. But Van Gisbergen was just flying.
And unfortunately, when you've got guys driving that quick, you get a bit of collateral damage sometimes. That was Ross Lilly. Here is the move, side by side. For a moment, just a moment, Van Gisbergen is ahead in the orange McLaren, but then Bernd Schneider squeezes him back with that Ford Focus, just getting in, maybe getting in the way and working like a block. Now, how close was that? Watch the reaction from the pit lane. They knew that that is physically, normally impossible to do. Then heading up the mountain straight into Griffin's Bend, Bernd Schneider said, hey, I've had enough of this. You go for it, son.
Yeah, they were smart, and then soon after they came across the Maranello Ferrari, and he tried to go down the inside at McPhillamy Park. Now, in one of these cars, that's fifth gear at 225 kilometres an hour, and he had 3 wheels off the racing surface. Incredible car control, probably one risk too far to take in a 12-hour endurance race, but the upside is the Kiwi superstar walked away from it, continues to be in a great position.
And let me tell you, we are showing you the absolute edited highlights on the Maguire's replay here. We could have shown you an hour
They went for hours.
action like this, that is just back and forth all the time, and the speed differentials as they go 3 wide down Conrod. Let's again watch that. Oh, fantastic stuff, and the Ferrari has the horsepower to come round the outside of the British supercar and take that position back. It's been like that for basically the whole race so far. Now, one of the stories is the longevity of the Pirelli and the Michelin tyres here, and Michelin's been giving us some great data. 56 degrees Celsius, 36 in the air. That is live now, going up to 57 with the pyrometer on the track right now.
And the hottest we've ever recorded here at Mount Panorama is 62 degrees, and that was at the same race 12 months ago. So it is very, very hot on the racetrack at the moment. There have been some tyre issues, but they haven't been related to the track surface. It's been different reasons: debris, drama, contact as well.
And this car has had 2 right rear punctures, but still manages to be inside the top 10 at position 9. David Calvert-Jones is driving this car and leads the GWS Recruitment Class B. Now, this is for slightly older GT3 cars. It's a slight technical difference. They're still very quick, they're still very beautiful, aren't all Porsches. The real story here is the bringing in of American Works Porsche ace Patrick Long, who has not been to the mountain before and has just been pretty much grinning every time we've spoken to him down in the pit lane. I watch him race in the American Le Mans Series and in Le Mans every year. He is an absolute ace at road racing, one of America's best, and he's fitted right in to just the whole atmosphere of the mountain.
And the man behind the wheel of that Porsche at the moment is an expat Aussie called David Calvert-Jones, and his job is a Hollywood helicopter cameraman. So flies the helicopters around in epic motion pictures. So a lot of the aerial shots you've seen, he worked on a couple of recent blockbusters. That's his job, race car driver in part-time. Now, the number 50 car, this is the Mark Focus, an Aussie-built enduro racer, has spun at the Falcon Tyres elbow, right at the top of Mount Panorama, just before you run down onto Conrod Straight.
Yeah, he's facing the wrong direction. You just got a clue there with one of the cars going back. We've seen 2 issues for these cars. The first time that car rolled away, this time that's not going to happen. The right front of that car is not how it came out of the shop. And I'm not a suspension engineer, but I don't think that's the right amount of camber, and I expect to see the BMW M5 safety car roll, and there is the confirmation on the start-finish line in front of us, and on the top of the screen, the safety car rolls for the 8th time in the 2014 Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 hours.
Bang on the race average over 8 years at an average of 8 safety car interventions. There might yet be more. There is the M5 waiting at the end of pit lane for the leader to come through. Now, in a race context, this closes it right up. It brings Van Gisbergen to the back bumper bar of the number 88 Il Bella Rosso Ferrari, driven by Mika Salo, and it also brings the Erebus number 63 car into the game with Greg Crick as well.
But with 2 hours and 21 minutes left, it doesn't really help anybody at the head of the field. You get about an hour's worth worth of racing out of a tank of fuel. The only people who might have a shot at this now is if, I can't see why you would, but you might want to take Shane van Gisbergen out and put Andrew Kirkconnell, who we saw there, into the 37 car, because we know Shane can't go to the end of the race. But you're effectively giving yourself an extra pit stop. Paul Truswell, you're looking at the numbers.
Yeah, I think it is worth doing, because when the safety car is out, you're virtually getting a free pit stop, as long as you're not the leader.
So let's have a look at some action up on the circuit with the Maguire's replay. Watch the Audi, look, oh, he's tipped into it. That is a bonkers move from René Rast, and he knows better than that. And if the race officials have seen that, I'll be surprised if he doesn't get called for avoidable contact. There was really no need for that. He's charging up through the field, was in 5th position. In fact, it just nipped through into 4th, I think, ahead of Greg Crick. But that is not going to do his reputation with the race stewards very much good at all.
Yeah, so the German driver, triple Porsche Super Cup champion, one of the main supports to Formula One around Europe, and he's sitting in 5th place at the moment in the Phoenix Racing Audi. There it is, with the great Aussie-inspired livery. They always do a sensational job, Phoenix, of supporting this event. They won it 2 years ago when they were representing the Audi Australia factory, but that was a 50% move. There wasn't much in that one.
So 8 times now we have seen the BMW M5 out on the circuit here at the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 Hours for 2014. We're going to close the field up. This is good news for Shane van Gisbergen. He was 21 seconds behind the leader. Mika Salo is going to have to watch at his mirrors, and the 88 car will go right through to the end of this race. Don't write the headlines yet. There's plenty more action to come from the mountain.
Mika Salo is in the lane, the Maranello Ferrari that leads the way with 237 laps complete. This is the second place McLaren. Shane van Gisbergen is also in. Safety car is out here at Mount Panorama. Refuel, the former Formula One driver, stays on board the Ferrari that he shared with Craig Lowndes, John Bowe and Peter Edwards, and he's back out into the fray, but still work goes with this brand new McLaren. Its racing debut in Australia is on target to be on the podium as we tick away. Still 2.25 hours to go in this amazing race that seems to have more twists and turns than you could ever believe, Richard Craill.
Noons it does. It's shaping up to be a real thriller right to the very end of this one, with a change of driver in the VIP Pet Foods Darrell Lee McLaren 12C, and Andrew Kirkconnell jumping into that car, the Scottish driver whose CRS racing team was the key driving force behind getting this GT3 McLaren program on track. So he changes. No driver change at Maranello Motorsport, and Mika Salo stays behind the wheel, Paul Truswell.
But the car that didn't come into the pits was the number 84, the HTP Motorsport Mercedes SLS, which Harold Premat stayed out in. Now, by my reckoning, he's now gone into the lead of the race behind the safety car, although obviously he's going in, oh, it was a pit stop when we get round to that.
So hot and sweaty Shane van Gisbergen jumped out of this car. All reason to expect after a short stint then that he'll have enough driving time up his sleeve to get back in for the final sprint to the flag.
But he does have to have a 1 hour rest. The regulations do demand him to have a 1 hour rest now, so we have to leave it until 5 o'clock, and then he'll be able to get back in the car again.
So just going past 4 o'clock local time here at Mount Panorama. Plenty of time for this all to play out. So Mercedes now retake their turn at the front of the race, but this time it's the number 84 entry of Harold Premat, French driver, German team, HTP Motorsport, and they've been one of the best and brightest of the Mercedes AMG customer sports teams from around the world. The Ferrari shown in second, and Kirkconnell third in the McLaren, but he's shown plenty of pace today, and the number 63 Erebus Motorsport Mercedes in the mix in this one as well.
Yeah, and this, just the way you guys were talking there, our viewers will get the idea of how many decisions are being made, not just behind the wheel, but also from the wall as well. And the tactics and the chat will continue down there in the pit lane and in the garage, as Shea Adam can tell us now.
This pit lane was very active during that caution flag stop, and especially for the 88. The class leader came in after the ultimate game of chicken. They came in at the last second to try and hold out the people who were running in second, the 37. But the 88 almost made the same mistake they made earlier, which involved leaving a pit board out. That cost them 30 seconds. This time they learned from their mistakes. They remembered to bring the pit board in, but they very, very nearly repeated what cost them so much earlier.
Yeah, you saw the guy with the stop board there in front of the 88 car, almost leaning up against the wall. He did that last time and sent the car. That was pit equipment left on the lane, and they had to come through for that drive-through. I showed you that at the start of the broadcast. He remembered, picked it up this time. This is what's called the wave-by. So what we're looking for now is the leader of the motor race, so we're not disadvantaging the guys who are in front of the leader, and taking advantage of that is the 84 car, Harold Primat, who would have been the leader. Now heads straight into the pit lane, and he gets a free pit stop because we're still under the full course caution. Now, you won't wave back any further at this point. That's the whole point. We got back to the leader. We won't wave by anymore. And one or two drivers perhaps not quite so sure about that. It'll be Greg Crick, the next guy in line, who would be the next car who are leading the motor race in the 63.
Yeah, but the safety car, once the HTP car pulled off, the safety car has to stop waving anybody past. So hopefully that will sort itself out.
Shane van Gisbergen is out of the 37. Seems an interesting call from the McLaren team. Greg Boyden can tell us more on their tactical thinking.
Yeah, very big tactical performance there. Was it your call to come in at the last moment, or did the team call you in?
I think we needed to. Now I've got to have an hour compulsory out of the car and then jump in and finish. So that got us back in position, and the safety car helps as well. But, you know, car's still, you know, really flying. Tyres are awesome. So we just got to be there at the last hour, and we can take them on.
Hot conditions, and you said the brakes were getting a little bit spongy on that last stint.
Yeah, the boys have worn them out, but that's all right. The car still performs. It's got a bit of knock-off, but, you know, everyone's got the same issues. But, yeah, no, Tony did a good job and stayed on the lead lap and got pretty fast at the end. And now the other guys are, you know, Andy's in the car now, so if he stays in touch, I think we can have a shot.
How different is the McLaren to a V8 supercar?
Yeah, that's a big question. It's so much easier to be on the edge and be quick around here than a supercar. But, you know, it's amazing over the top, having downforce and not having to slide around in the big taxi. But, you know, the V8 is such a challenge to get a good lap time out of, so that's the beauty of that. But, yeah, looking forward to the end.
You've certainly been on the edge. One of your fellow V8 supercar competitors, Will Davison's with Aaron Noonan.
Hey, Will Davison, this has been a weird day. Your debut with Erebus Motorsport, but you've got a wounded car, but you're still at the front. But are you a sitting duck? And can you hold these other guys off?
Well, it's just been an incredible day. It's been an amazing experience. So certainly an eye-opener for me, my first 12-hour, and it really is a privilege to be part of Erebus and their whole GT program leading into obviously the V8 Supercar season. But what a day. I mean, I think 6 or 7 minutes in, you know, we made a bit of a meal of a beautiful race car with a kangaroo jumping out in front of Jack. And it's obviously taken pretty much half the front splitter away, and it's killed all front aero. So it's a bit of a handful, but we've persevered, and it's just a brilliant group of people here that have kept us in contention. And, you know, in these types of races, you just never know what's going to happen.
Clearly, it's too long to try to change it. It would take too long.
Yeah, obviously, we discussed all those options. You know, we went a lap down quite early in the race, and, you know, it was possibly like a 10-minute change, and the safety car lapped for about 5 minutes. So, you know, we discussed, do we try and maybe lose a couple of laps and change it? But there's also quite a lot of the brackets and whatnot are also broken. It's quite complex, so we've persevered. I think it was the right decision. If it's a shootout to the end, you know, we could be a bit of a sitting duck, but we've still managed to punch out some low fives, which just goes to show if it was, you know, if the car was as it should be, you know, it'd be an incredible car. We'd be doing, I think, 3s out there. So, you know, it's just testament to these guys that prep such an awesome SLS.
And Rich, they're going to put Jack LeBrock in this car next, and Will here will take them home to the checkered flag in the Aussie Merc car 63.
Yeah, so mirroring the strategy that the VIP Pet Foods team are doing with the McLaren in just rotating their fastest driver out of the car. Now, there's been a massive amount of drama on the mountain, as there always is today. The Motion Sport Lotus BTCC champion Gordon Shedden amongst the driving squad here. They brought out an early safety car, John with an off at the chase, but this was a big moment, probably the biggest of the day, I think, with Hiroshi Hamaguchi and a massive lose at the top.
And amazing to me that he didn't get picked up by more people. It's such a quick double apex left-hander right at the top of the mountain there. All kinds of things going on behind him. One of the Audis hits the wall and damages the front splitter and the suspension. But the big hit is about to come up from the left-hand side of the screen. And it doesn't get any better no matter how many times we watch it. Godzilla back on the mountain, the Nissan GTR for the first time in 22 years. A bit of Aussie folklore surrounding Nissan and the GTR, and that was some of the sundry pieces that were left. And in slow motion, God, it still just doesn't get any better, does it?
And Rick Kelly was one of the drivers of that car, the V8 Supercar Star, and did a brilliant job early in the race, and they were a legitimate podium threat early on. This was later on Ross Lilly in the Lamborghini, avoiding the dicing leaders of the race, and just ran wide at almost exactly the same moment. Bang, square into the wall, and another massive impact. Fortunately, Ross also was okay, got out of the car under his own steam.
Driver's side into the wall, he can open the door. Watch this. And cringe, and then see how little damage there was to the car that he got out of it on his own. Down into the end of the chase. What happens when you have no brakes? That's what happens. Pump it, pump it, pump it, then it locks up, airborne, and, well, just close your eyes. It'll all be all right in the end.
Yeah, that was a remarkable off too, and so lucky not to roll the car. There's a big ditch in the middle of the gravel trap right about there. Launches over the curb in front of other cars, one of the Mark Focuses going through, and that was a very, very big moment for the number 45 Team BRM Porsche. And this, well, we've not long seen this down the inside. Rene Rast at Falcon Tyres. It was absolutely unbelievable. And they're going crazy on the track today and off it as well. What's going on here? There is all sorts of colour and drama at Mount Panorama, and this is happening amongst the very large crowd here today.
Fitness freak. He's clearly a fitness freak. You should have seen him before he started his fitness regime.
Well, I have seen it all at Mount Panorama. There's no such thing as a dull moment at Mount Panorama. Hi to all international followers. It's just a remarkable... He's filming himself.
That's going to be on YouTube at some stage in the very near future. Now, hang on. Let's just get those hamstrings pulled out. Got to make sure that you stretch out when you're being on a bike, otherwise those hamstrings can just shorten up a little bit. We're behind the BMW M5 safety car, which has been out for something over a couple of hours, but it has not dulled the excitement. These guys are watching the same pictures that you've just seen, and seen that fine figure of a man doing his workout in the heat here at Mount Panorama.
Well, while we're under this safety car and we're talking about the crowd, I can tell you that a massive crowd, more than 26,000 people over 3 days to the mountain, which is 4,000 people up on 2013. So this race really building, really growing, and it's also building to a massive finish, John, because but there's still so long to go. It's hard to predict how this is going to play out, but there are 4 cars that look like potential winners so far.
Yeah, and we've got the 63 in the lead here with Greg Crick at the wheel of that Erebus Mercedes-Benz. That's him looking back to one of the Abarth 500s new in this race this weekend. It's 2 hours and 5 minutes to go. You might just want to splash if you're not one of the very leading cars here, and then try and go with just one more pit stop from here, Paul.
I don't think it's worth doing it just at the moment, John. I think because we're about to go green, you need to get with the programme, as it were, get on the track and get the laps on board. What is interesting is that the car that has got itself into the lead has shuffled itself into the lead by making the pit stop as soon as the safety car came out, and that's how the number 63 is into the lead now.
So the green and black Mercedes-Benz at the head of that queue is leading. Where is the second place car? Ansett going through the shot right there. There's about half a dozen cars, and there is the McLaren in third position. The bright orange car is pretty easy to pick out, so green and black leads. Then it's the red Ferrari. Ferraris have almost got to be red, and that is Mika Salo, the ex-Formula One driver. And Andrew Kirkcaldy is in the McLaren in third place. Andrew Kirkcaldy, the Scotsman, has been part of this McLaren GT programme since it started. Indeed, his company designed and developed the race car from that British, that Woking-built supercar, right from Paul Truswell's area of the world.
This is going to be something to watch, because the race could play out right here in terms of who's going to have a shot. And as soon as the safety car's in, Greg Crick in that Erebus Mercedes can go. Everyone else is bundled up behind that Fiat before they they get to the control line, which they get to now. Now they can go for it. And the faster cars can go through, and Mika Salo already on the inside, working his way past in that bright red Ferrari. But Greg Crick has gone up the road, but Salo's been consistently one of the fastest cars in the race today. This is his moment to shine, and the orange McLaren, you can see it just going out of shot. It's right in contention too.
And here's a bit of great news for Greg Crick. He's got his teammate, only Bernd Schneider, multiple DTM champion, as tail end Charlie. He's not in this race. He's 5 laps down, but he's between the Mercedes-Benz and the Ferrari and the third place McLaren. This could work out very nicely for the 63 car.
You know your race is going okay when you've got one of the greatest German touring car drivers and a man that won all but one of the major endurance races in the world last year as your rear gunner. It's just a remarkable circumstance that Greg Crick finds himself in, but there is still 2 hours to go in this motor race. And as we mentioned, we're heading towards what we think could be a record distance, though that last safety car did not help out pace for this one. The pressure on down at Maranello Motorsport.
Captured, absolutely captured, and the team having a little go at him as well. Father and son team, that is the Clark pair of fils down in the pit lane, the VIP pet food guy. Tony has had a go. Tony Clark kept his end up nicely in the middle and gave that extra hour so that they had the options to get Andrew Cocotti back in this car now to save Shane Van Gisbergen to the end. All tactical, not always just about speed out on the track.
And Van Gisbergen been one of the fastest drivers on the racetrack, the fastest driver all day long. So here's the rear gunner in play for Bernd Schneider, following his teammate around, protecting him from this guy, Mika Salo in the flying Ferrari, with 240 laps, approaching 1,500 kilometres of Mount Panorama today with 2 hours to go.
I'm not sure if you let Schneider go through. Well, he has. He's gone through. That's interesting. They must feel that they've got half a chance of getting some of the 5 laps that they are in arrears back. Now down to 4 just. Maybe he can just trail him round a little bit. Maybe Greg Crick can follow in the wheel tracks, literally, of a multiple champion and the defending champion from this race last year in his team car. But Salo is coming. Salo is inexorably drawing in towards the lead of this race. It would be very, very emotional indeed if this Ferrari could get somewhere near the victory as they go mountain straight for the 242nd time. There's Craig Lowndes. He is out of the car and getting ready.
Adele, the team physio at Maranello Motorsport, giving Lowndes a rub down just out the back of the garages. You get your drivers nice and loose before it, so get them relaxed. They've got to be fit. We all know they're great athletes, but they're dealing with some very high cabin temperatures today, so they need to deal with the heat. They need to deal with the pressure of this great motor race. So Lowndes just limbering up, getting ready for that final stint. This is Mika Salo. We're on board the flying Ferrari, the screaming 4.5 litre V8 behind him. And just look how fast these cars are across the top of the mountain.
And listen to the engine. Feather on, feather off. And look how quick he comes to the scene of the accident we watched earlier on. Wait for the grid on the right-hand side. Turn in now. And it's just a lift there and back on the throttle. That is awesome from Mika Salo. This man knows how to pedal. Down through the gearbox, hit the curb on the left, mind the wall on the right. You get close to it, but not too close. Dropping down into the dimmer, down into the gear. Quick squirt of power, get the car settled down, down to the forest elbow, coming up on the left-hand side. Now brake down, 1, 2 gears and turn in.
And onto Conrod Straight, which in these cars, they're not actually as fast as a V8 supercar in a straight line, but you wait till you see how late they brake at the very end of it. So paddle shift gearbox, you can see Mika picking gears. He's closing right into the leader. So grab 6 gear as they get to the crest, and then they run down to the chase. 275, 280. They'll just be touching 285 now. Still flat, still flat, still flat. Wow. Brake at 170 metres and down to 3rd gear and get it turned in at the top of the hill. He's looming ever closer to our race leader, Greg Crick. This is on for the lead with less than 2 hours to go.
Not a hint of a lift as they went through into the chase there. Now looking back from the leader, that is what Greg Crick can see through his rear view mirror, and what it says is you're not going to be the leader very much longer. He needs to be sensible about this. Everything in Greg Crick's mind as a racing driver will want him to fight against that Ferrari, but that's not his job right now as the McLaren goes through behind and has dropped down into 4th position because the 84 HPT of Maxi Burke has gone ahead of him. That's the Mercedes-Benz. Greg now just needs to be sensible. He can't win the race now for the 63 team, but he could lose it if he tries to defend too hard.
A 10 7.0 last time round for Greg Crick. It's 7.9 for Mika Salo. So a full 2.1 seconds faster than the leader. So Salo closing in at the rate of 2 seconds a lap. So change of position for third as well. Maximilian Buch, the young German driver, has got himself to third in the HTP Mercedes-Benz. Liqui-Moly back to fourth. So 4 cars on the lead lap. This is going to be an unbelievable finish to the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 hour.
Do you know that HTP car? I'd written that off a couple or 3 hours ago, and it just proves, doesn't it, that you've got to keep your eyes on what's going on. Eyes on the prize, guys. And look at just a little dab of the brakes by Greg Crick. Just a feather on the brake by Mika Salo. Over the top, through Brook Skyline, down into the S's. You can see now that Mika Salo is already planning. He's doing the calculation in his head. He's not thinking about brake, throttle, turn in. He does that automatically. He's got a tactical mode now, and he's looking to see where that Erebus Mercedes might be just a little bit slower. Now it's very, very quick down the Conrod straight, so he's got to be right underneath the rear wing if he's got any chance at all of getting somewhere into position. But look, Greg Crick gets on the right-hand pedal and he's just easing away. The Ferrari's still in the hole in the air. You could hear the wind rattling on that car, but he can't live with the power of the big V8 Merc.
And this is the beauty of top-line GT racing, John, that the different cars are strong in different parts of the racetrack. The Ferrari's better across the top, the Merc better in a straight line, and that's what we're seeing. It makes it difficult to pass, but it produces very close racing, and they're lapping within half a tenth of each other. So Salo right on the back now, very good under brakes too, Mika, all weekend, the Flying Finn. Remember, almost 100 Grand Prix starts and raced for Ferrari for a couple of seasons too.
And that variety and that difference of performance is what I'm talking about when I'm saying that the second place car there with Mika Salo at the wheel, he is planning, he's plotting, he's trying to have a look at where he's stronger. There is the new third place guy, and that is the 84 car, the HTP, a Mercedes-Benz. First time we've seen any team other than Erebus run the Mercedes-Benz, the AMG, here at Bathurst. There's the leader, and again you see on the fast part of the circuit the Mercedes-Benz pulls out, but now Mika Salo has had to just drop away a little bit. There's the McLaren in fourth position with Andrew Cocotti. Now, did he have an issue? Well, that seems to be running quite nicely now. He had a slow lap last time around.
Yeah, it doesn't quite have the pace of the leaders at the moment, but it's okay. As long as the McLaren stays on the lead lap and he's somewhere within striking distance, Shane van Gisbergen has been the fastest guy on the mountain today. So he'll get in the next 50 minutes or so and drive the car to the end. But I was going to say, Maxi Buch, the young German who was the Blockpan Endurance Series champion last year, amazing driver in Europe, one of the young rising stars. He was the fastest man on the circuit last time, to the tune of 2 seconds. He's flying.
Quite clearly, the package that is fastest at the moment, though, would be Mika Salo if he was in clear air. But in motor racing, you don't always get what you want. And at the moment, Mika Salo is looking for a safe way to get by Greg Crick, who's doing a great job round the outside, down into the Falcon tyres, elbow at the top of Conrod Straight. He has a little look, but he can't get it done. Greg Crick, by the way, is doing nothing wrong and everything right. He's not weaving around, he's not blocking, he's just using the extra power of that Mercedes-Benz to his advantage.
And we should mention, Cricky is lapping as quick as the leaders in the Bathurst 1000 were last October. He's not going slowly, it's just that Salo's really, really fast. We go back on board the Ferrari, and Salo's been just superb this weekend. They missed out on pole position by half a tenth of a second and missed out on the Alan Simonson pole position trophy, which was inaugurated this year. Remember our late great friend Alan Simonson, who drove this car here last year and up to this year was the fastest man ever around Mount Panorama in a GT car. They were a bit distraught about missing that. The Erebus team won it, but gee, they put on a great performance today.
And underlining the camaraderie, the team leader and very much the inspiration of Erebus Racing, Betty Cape, took that trophy down, handed it to the guy at Maranello Motorsport. There she is, and said, hey guys, how about you look after this for a little while? And I just thought that was an outstanding gesture to the guys who are still hurting over losing their comrade. Erebus Motorsports then leads, proudly flying the Australian flag on the Michelin tyres. Remember the car in fourth place now. Andrew Cocotti is on Pirelli, so we do have a battle at the head of the field between the tyre manufacturers. There is Greg Crick, looks nice and relaxed. Yeah. He had a glance into the side mirror there as he turns right, heading up the cutting, and he knows that that red Ferrari is going to come at him and come at him hard over the top of the mountain. But he's doing everything right. He's using the strength of his car. He doesn't have to push too hard here. He doesn't need to go any faster because, quite frankly, Mika Salo would have to get that car to grow wings and fly over the top of him so long as he sits in the right place on the road.
But you can hear in the Erebus Mercedes the different style of car. It's not as high revving, not as high stressed, of course. Front engine, rear drive. The Ferrari with the mid-mount, high revving 4.5 litre V8. The bigger, more torquey and more grunty V8 in the Erebus Mercedes. And they're just getting caught up behind some lap traffic. One of the Fiat Abarth 500s making their debut in Australian motorsport this weekend. Salo continuing to attack, but I'm not surprised Cricky looks so relaxed. Experienced Tasmanian. He's been here many times as a co-driver. He's won Sports Sedans Championships in Australia, and he's won the Targa Tasmania Tarmac Rally, and he still races at the top level in Touring Car Masters.
But he is not a professional racing driver, and I don't mean that as any detriment, Krilsey. What I'm saying is that's a great job he's doing against a man who raced at the very top of motorsport and is still one of the best GT drivers in the world, that being Mika Salo behind him. He still earns his living as a professional racing driver. Cricky is doing what he does because he loves it.
Yeah, it's the Launceston car dealer against the former Ferrari F1 driver. That's what we're seeing here.
Write that headline. I love it. And here comes a little bit of traffic, and it's always danger time for the leader. You hope that the slower cars see you. 6 different classes on the circuit at the same time. Some of them more touring and sedan style cars than these out-and-out race-bred GT3 machineries of the exotic manufacturers like Ferrari, Mercedes-Benz, Audi and the rest. And again, you see, you just can't get that Ferrari close enough to make the pass going into the second corner, Griffin's Bend, at the end of Mountain Straight.
2:09.2 for Crick last time round. Salo an 8.8, just a fraction quicker. Maxi Book had a bit of a moment at the chase. We just caught it, edge of shot, ran a little bit wide, caught up in a lap car, did a 10.9, and Cacoldi's now up to speed in that McLaren and lapping as fast as the leaders, so he's right in contention too, and they're the leading group of cars. Renault Rust a little bit further back. Somehow or another, Phoenix have magicked their way back onto the lead lap of this race, having been a few laps back earlier on today, but Renault Rust right in this race. They're in P5 in the Audi.
Took the way by at the last safety car period. Now, for my money, Mika Salo now is just cooling his Michelin tyres a little bit and planning and scheming and working out where he can go. I think what will happen is he'll close up very quickly to the back of Greg Crick, somewhere on the circuit, probably down in the Falcon Tyres elbow, and try and have a little look and try and surprise the man in the Erebus Mercedes. I think Cricky has got that covered, if I'm honest. It's a choice of 2 ways that you can go into the elbow, which is where we are now. Cricky prefers the inside line, and I think that's smart for him, because what he does is stands up the Ferrari and stops Mika Salo getting on the power quite as early as he wants to. He already knows his car's got a better punch out of the corner and better top speed, so that means that he can't get alongside him when you come down to this right-hander at the chase.
So this race continuing to evolve. There's an hour and 50 to go in the Liqui-Moly 12 hour for 2014, and things are shaping up for a thriller. Let's have a look at where things stand at the moment. The Ferrari continues to lead the Pirelli leaderboard. In fact, it's Greg Crick, Salo second, then Maxi Book, Andrew Cacoldi fourth for McLaren. Audi's are next in 5th and 6th position. This race is building at Mount Panorama. Lots more to come from the mountain and the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 hour.
On board with the second place car, as we're looking at Mika Salo, and Mika Salo is looking at the back of a Mercedes-Benz by Erebus with Greg Crick at the wheel. Greg Crick doing an awesome job and holding on to the lead for the Erebus 63 Mercedes, the Aussie Mercedes, and here comes Salo, goes round the outside at the Falcon Tyres elbow, can't get it done but drops straight back in. The issue now is the torque and the power of that big Mercedes V8 that will once again just ease away. Can he stay in the hole in the air? He's holding on a little bit better this time. I reckon if he can hassle Greg just enough, he might have a look into the last corner at Maguire's.
Can I remind you, this is a 12-hour motor race, and we're 10 hours and 13 minutes into it, and this is the intensity of the fight for the lead.
Yeah, he's close.
It's just amazing. As we said before the break, a Launceston car dealer versus a former Ferrari F1 driver in Mika Salo, the flying Finn. He's got a great run out of the chase. He looked to fire one down the inside or the outside of Maguire's corner, but not this time, and Greg Crick is really up to the challenge.
And behind these two, Maximilian Buch in the light-coloured Mercedes-Benz is right there as the leaders are going down into hell corner. Here comes Solo down the inside. He's leaving his braking very late, but he has to drop back in behind the leader. There's an issue now for Mika Solo because the Mercedes-Benz behind with the bright fluorescent yellow accoutrements is the third place car, and he's going to come under pressure from Maxi Buch in third position. First, second and third on Mountain Straight after just 10.25 hours of rest.
Just saw a shot there. The man in the glasses was Jeremy Moore, who's Craig Lowndes' V8 supercar engineer. Down to pit lane, here's Boydo.
Well, Jack LeBrock standing with me at the moment. You're just about to hop into this car. Look, I don't know who you'd rather be up against, Mika Salo or Craig Lowndes, who's about to step in too. Tough day for you at the office.
Yeah, definitely. It's been very full on after hitting that kangaroo at the start of the race. It wasn't ideal, but you know, we're pressing on. I think the team's done a great job with the strategy, and Will and Greg have done an amazing job, and Greg's out there now leading the race, so yeah, let's see what happens.
So that's the word from the speedy young Victorian former Australian Formula 4 champion of 2 years ago. He's a great young talent, Jack LeBrock. He is going to be a star of the future, but relative to the guys he's racing, not right as experience. So this isn't now a battle of three. This is impressive stuff from Maximilian Buch, the young German, has hauled this HTP car along with his teammates Harold Primer and Thomas Jaeger right into this, and Mika Salo's in trouble. He's harassing the back of Crick more so than ever because he knows the straight line potential of the car behind him.
And he had to get out of the throttle there in the middle of the corner. He was on it early, thought he was going to get a run down the inside. He had to back out of it, and that could be curtains for the Ferrari in second. Watch that light-coloured Mercedes-Benz. That's the Erebus Racing pit. It's now not just about first and second, it's about first, second and third, down through the chase, and this is the battle for the lead. 3 cars, 2 Mercedes-Benz, 1 Ferrari, 1 former Formula 1 driver, a European touring car and endurance champion, and a car dealer.
And while they do this, as Buch looks down the inside,
Got
this
him.
is for second.
Nailed it, absolutely nailed it. Maximilian Buch comes back, just rolls off the brakes as he goes to the apex, and Mika Salo will not be best pleased about that, but what he will try and do is hang on to the back of that lighter coloured Mercedes-Benz and try and use him to drag him back to the leader and then maybe get them both in one swift manoeuvre.
I don't think the 88 car is racing the 63, and a gesture from Salo. What's going on? I'm frustrated. I don't have enough straight line speed to challenge these SLSs at Mount Panorama. That's why they're such a good package. Middle of screen, middle of that row. That's Jeremy Moore with a hat on. Craig Lowndes, full-time engineer in V8 Supercars. He's running strategy for Maranello this weekend.
And he's talking to Mika Salo and saying, Mika, calm down, calm down. I know we haven't got the speed in a straight line. We'll get him later, boy. We'll get him later. Now the battle for first and second becomes an inter-marque rivalry. Erebus Mercedes-Benz, the guys who championed bringing the AMG GT3 cars over to Australia, and the new pretenders, HTP, with the guys from Europe bringing some international flavour to the mountain. And this is the battle for first, second and third, and we've still got an hour and 43 minutes to go.
So the Ferrari couldn't get past the Mercedes. What about the Mercedes trying to get past the Mercedes? So 2 identical cars now, first and second in the race with the Ferrari watching on. And while these guys dice, that will bring Cacoldi back into the mix in the McLaren as well.
And don't forget the damage on the front of Greg Crick's car. That's got to be giving him some kind of aerodynamic disadvantage. Does that mean that Maxi Buch will be able to use that in his favour at this part of the circuit? Well, he's not really close enough, is he? As they had to go past some of the slower cars. Now we're getting down towards, in the next 10 or 15 minutes, what will be last pit stop times. Paul Truswell, who's going to have to blink first?
Well, they're all going to have to pit roughly together because they all pitted together on the previous time. But by my reckoning, it'll be the Erebus car, the car that leads the 63, which will be in first, and the one that will be in last is the other Mercedes, the HTP car. Ooh. So they're the ones perhaps with the box seats.
And coming down to Maguire's the final corner, Maxi Buch. This is where he got second place, and this is where he gets the lead. Thank you very much indeed. And how frustrating is that going to be, watching on from behind for Mika Salo, because he's tried lap after lap, but Greg is not giving up, is he? Greg Crick. Oh, there was no touch there. That was very close indeed, going into hell corner. It's not going to do anything for Mika Salo's mood to see just how easy Maxi Buch got down the inside, and he hasn't been able to get anywhere near the back of that green and black machine.
So from third to second to first in the space of a couple of laps for the young German in the white SLS AMG that leads the race. And this has been a storming drive very, very impressive. They started this race 11th, and Thomas Jaeger, the German, who teamed with Erebus last year to win the race, there's a sense of irony given who they're racing at the moment, dragged this car kicking and screaming from the back of the field and got it up in towards a race-winning potential position.
Greg Crick held up there as he went up the cutting, had to get off the power, and that's allowed Mika Salo just to have another little sniff. Will he be able to drag back up to the second place car? But it is freed Maxi Burke in that HTP Mercedes-Benz like a cork from the bottle. Now he's got to do qualifying laps till he comes into the pits. He's the last man into the pit lane. He's got to build as much lead as he can for the 84 car. And here comes the Ferrari down the outside into the top of the S's. Almost a chance for a pass there using the slower car as a pick. But there's no way you can go too wide through there unless you're Shane Van Gisbergen, as we showed you in the highlights package.
Yeah, he's about the only one that could do it. 250 laps now in the books of the Liqui-Moly 12 hour with an hour and 40 to go. That's the key number. We don't need to look at laps in this race. It's all about time and working backwards, boxed in behind a lap car. Mika Salo will try and get the toe from the Porsche. Now he pulls in behind Greg Crick down Conrad. This has to be his best opportunity to get past this pesky SLS AMG, and the place to do it is at the chase.
But Greg Crick's done his job. He's held the lead. He's done exactly what he wanted. He hasn't allowed the Ferrari to go by and get a lead. I think you pull him in now and put in one of the other drivers and let them run the hour and 40 minutes to the end of the race. Does he go into the pit lane? He's over to the left-hand side of the circuit. No, he stayed out this time. And surely the Ferrari must be able to get down the inside this time. He's nowhere near. And how annoying is that going to be for Mika Salo? He's still there, though. Look at the right-hand side. The Mercedes-Benz pulls away. He was halfway alongside coming out of Maguire's, but he can't get into position to pass. Yes, he can! Comes from way back, Mika Salo pulls the old over and under and gets through into second place. And there's a huge cheer down in the Maranello Motorsport pits.
The trick now is to cover it, because this is where he's vulnerable. Once they get to turn 2, Mika Salo will be fine and will be away, but he's vulnerable until then to the straight line speed of Greg Crick, and Cricky will sail around the outside, but Salo is okay. Nice. He's okay, the Finnish driver, and he's second.
And that was a veteran move. Just made it slightly to the left and said to Cricky, listen, if you want to go around, you're going to have to go on the dirty part of the track. And now as they head up the cutting, Greg Crick is going to watch a masterclass from the back of that Ferrari ahead of him. This was great stuff. Looks like he's going to do it. Looks like he's not going to do it. And then at the last possible yawning moment, gets down the inside. The key there is just rolling off the brakes as he goes through the apex of the corner and making sure he doesn't lock a wheel.
Unreal stuff. Remember, 12-hour race. You'd think it was a sprint, just so intense. Although not if you're Craig Lowndes, let's be honest, because he looks pretty relaxed. He's had his massage, he's chilled out, ready to jump into this car and drive it to the line and see where they end up at the end of 12 hours around the mountain.
The issue for Mika Salo is he's lost 3.5 seconds to Maxi Burke in the other Mercedes-Benz when he was some 8 seconds, 9 seconds in front of him when he's been sitting behind Greg Crick.
Well, this is where we now get an indication now they're both in clear air, and by that I mean not following other cars relentlessly lap after lap or dicing for position, where Maxi books pace in the white Mercedes. There it is into the chase, and just behind them the red Ferrari. Now we see how fast they are relative to each other, and that will be a good indicator of what kind of cars they've got underneath them after a pretty bruising 10 hours and 22 minutes of racing on the mountain.
Well, I still think that Ferrari is a quick car. I think the issue is he needs to get past the Mercedes-Benz at the right part of the circuit, and that's been the planning and scheming that we were talking about early on. And let's head down into the pit lane. Craig Lowndes is now done with his massage. He's back seated and booted and ready to race. Will he be back in the race before the end? Shea Adams can tell us.
Well, Craig, now that you've had your massage, are you ready to go for the final stint?
Yeah, I think that's, look, we're all right and ready to go. So see what Mika does. He's doing a fantastic job. The day's getting hotter, the track's getting hotter. Things are all coming, but of course, it's you know, it's been a crazy day. It's sort of thing. You've seen a lot of things happen. And of course, you know, whatever has got time left is so I'm bound to have more to go.
Does the Ferrari like these hotter environments?
Not, to be honest, no. I think it's more the cooler temperature the car likes. You know, this morning the car was quite nice. When I got out of the car before in the hotter conditions, it was moving around a little bit more. But you still do the times. You just got to work a bit harder. So the way it is, it's hot enough. But you know, the car's been running great all day. Both JB, Pete, Mika, and I have you know, had a run in the car and stayed out of trouble, which was probably the main thing today.
Well, staying out of trouble was what you started with, and hopefully it's what you'll finish with.
Yeah, Craig Lowndes looks like he can't wait to get back in that car and race to the checkered flag in an hour and 36 minutes time. We need to get to about an hour. This is what it looked like from on board. This is Maguire's, the final corner across the line. For all the world, it looks like the pass is made there. Mika Salo goes there. I'll drop in and I'll take a little bit of the aero advantage. I'm not coming, I'm not coming. Oh, yes, I am. Fooled you.
And you wait till the brake lights in the car in front come on, count 1, 2, and then brake yourself and fire it up the inside and hope it can stop. This is it from Salo's car. So Crick just offline, but wait, we'll see the horsepower from the SLS, the big AMG V8. There it is. Salo ducks in behind, gets in the aero effect. The car in front, brake lights, then wait, and then he jumps on the picks and gets it turned in. Ripper move, great racing. Very, very competitive stuff at the end of a 12-hour.
And I really like the way that his gear changes were bang, wait, bang, wait. You go down too quickly, you can lock the back wheels, and particularly under excessive braking, that could have kicked him sideways. But Mika Salo is far too an experienced hand to make that kind of error, and he will be very, very pleased to have dealt with the number 63 car. And he's off in pursuit of Maxi Book, who is now 3.3 seconds up the road. There he is, turning onto Mountain Straight for the 254th time. Remember, the great race in October, Australia's race, is 161 laps, and we're already onto 253. What a great story for this car. 2 punctures on the rear end of this car. Earl Bamber had an issue earlier on, but they fought back to the lead in the GWS Personnel Class B with that Porsche, and well inside the top 10 as well. In 8th position, David Calvert-Jones is behind them, and they're in 2nd place. That's the car with Pat Long we were talking about earlier on, and the Porsches really coming to the fore in Class B.
This is a really good combination too, with Earl Bamber, the Kiwi Porsche Super Cup racer, and British driver Ben Barker, who'll be familiar to Australian audiences because he raced here in Australian F3, where he was champion in 2010, and racing in Porsche Super Cup now. More from Noons in pit lane.
Rich, really good timing. I just walked into the Grove Racing garage, and they're in a really big fight against Andy McElroy's team, and it's this car that's slowing on Conrad. The cheer has gone up here in the garage because this is the Competition Motorsport Ice Break Coffee car of David Calvert-Jones, which was losing time to Earl Bamber in car 4, and now the 2nd place car in Class B that has Alex Davison and the American factory Porsche driver Patrick Long in it is stopping on Conrad, and this could be another safety car, and this could completely change things for the front of this race.
He's turning the car off and on. You can see the headlights going off and on. That was a massive battle going on while we were watching the lead, and the moment we go to it and there's an issue, but look, he's recycled something. He's pulled the fuses, pushed the fuses, hit every button that he can. The guys will be screaming at him down the radio, saying to him, push this, push that, do this, do that. I expect to see that car in the pit lane. They want to have a look at that, get it fueled and send it to the end.
I'm not sure where they were on pit strategy, but I seem to remember them being in the pits reasonably recently, so surely can't have run that thing out of fuel and hunting for a reserve and then trying to refire it. But some other driver, in case of a walking wounded in several instances, of course, across this race, and no one in Class B has been unscathed today. Everyone has had some form of drama. So the HTP Mercedes continues. The man that did the job in this car early in the morning is Thomas Jaeger. He's in pit lane with Grant Boyden.
Yeah, no disrespect, Thomas. To find you guys at the front of the field, we weren't expecting it. From what I hear, you guys weren't expecting it either. Well done.
Yeah, we're absolutely lucky. In the end, the team did a great strategy because we were already 2 laps down. And then, yeah, we did quite good lap times. We were lucky with the safety cars, and now we're in the lead, so it will be pretty tough towards the end. So we'll see who has to stop once or twice for fuel. But after all these problems we had in the last 2 days, we can be really, really lucky and happy to be back in the game again.
Well, strategy is one thing, but speed's another, and that car's got a lot of pace. Any issues at all with it at the moment?
Not at all. Everything is fine, and yeah, setup seems to work. Tire degradation is pretty good, so we have to pay a little bit attention with the fuel consumption, and then hopefully we have at least a podium result.
Any more pit stops for you guys?
Yeah, we have to make at least 1 more.
Thanks very much for your time, Thomas.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks.
The pressure is ramping up down there, you know. Everybody's trying to be cool, calm and collected when we send our pit reporters in there. The guys in the cars are in some ways isolated from what's going on in the pits, and racing drivers will tell you at this stage they'd much rather be driving than watching somebody else driving their car when they can't influence it. And the worst thing is we've still got at least one pit stop for all the leading runners, and a drop wheel nut, a fumble, a piece of equipment run over, that could be your race over and done with. And if I know that, and now you guys know that, so does everybody in the pit lane who've got their jobs to do.
The number 45 Class B Porsche, this was a class leader at some stage throughout the day until we saw the highlights reel just before that off at the chase when their brakes had issues. They had a massive off. It was a drama. Here's where things run in the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 hour with an hour and a half to go. Thanks to Pirelli, it's Maximilian Book leading the way in the Mercedes from Ferrari. Greg Crick still sits third in the Erebus Motorsport car. Kikoli next in the McLaren, then Rene Rast, Marcus Winkelhock, Maro Engel, and the first of the Class B cars. We've seen drama then running in 9th place.
The Michelin class leaderboard, there's that car, Earl Bamber in 9th place. Then the Ridges Class C is the Lotus of Tony Alford, the Donut King car. The Daytona leads the Century class now, the Century Batteries Class D. The Fiat in Class F and I is Andrew Ledecky in the Recaro Fords. Well, we've still got an hour and 30 minutes to go. Pit stops to come, drama aplenty. Yeah, I'll guarantee that from Mount Panorama. Welcome back to the mountain, into the pit lane for the leader. Just a couple of moments ago, and Greg Crick, having done a super job, climbs gently out of the 63 Erebus Mercedes-Benz, and Jack Le Brocq gets in. Perhaps a name that some of you aren't familiar with, but Richard Creel, this guy has got talent.
He's got a whole heap of talent. He won the Australian Formula 4 Championship 2 years ago, a product of Australia's karting and open wheel system, and last year raced this Erebus Mercedes in Australian GT and won 3 rounds, started 3 rounds, so he is very, very talented. It was a good, clean stop, and he will take this car to the end. Now, they cannot reach the end on fuel. They will have to stop again for a splash and go towards the end of the race, and there's a very happy Benny Klemenko kissing Greg Crick on the helmet and getting it in. So it's a very colourful helmet too there. Cricky's got the Tasmanian car dealer.
And that is Mika Salo in 2nd place. Ahead of him, but not by very much, is a lighter coloured Mercedes-Benz than the one he was tussling with earlier on, just disappearing down towards the dipper. There is the leader of the race, and Mika Salo has been turned up to 11th. He is absolutely flinging this Ferrari around the corners. No quarter asked or given. There's the leader with the bright fluorescent yellow trim on the HTP Mercedes-Benz going down Conrod, and that has come down from somewhere near 3 seconds, and that looks like it's down to about a second yet. Now, tactics is going to play a part, Crailsey.
We've just heard from pit lane that this will be a short run for Jack Le Brocq, and Will Davison will indeed get in and finish this race. So he told us something contrary a little bit early on. I like it, good move. So they're putting their fastest driver of the day in that car for the run to the flag. So this is Mika Salo, he's 2nd. We'll check their lap times when they come around the line this time by, because I'm keen to see where he sits in relation to the leader. So Maxi Book into the 205s, a 5.8, Salo 7.0. The gap extends at 3 seconds now.
It's just the traffic, isn't it? And it depends where you hit it. There is the leader and the 2nd place heading up the mountain on lap 259. Yes, 259. Remember, this is a 12-hour race, and quite frankly, you're joining at a very exciting time with just under 90 minutes to go, but it's been like this since 6:15 this morning.
So this is how the field sits. 1st, 2nd go through. There's the Lamborghini that Eric Banner's been driving today, and they've had a tremendous job right at the top of the screen. A bright orange little McLaren MP4 12C, driven by a Scottish driver called Andrew Kikoli. They are still very much in the hunt for this race. That's the Darrell Lee VIP Pet Foods Racing entry that Clark Quinn, Tony Quinn and Shane Van Gisbergen are sharing, and SVG will jump in that car for the final hour of this race. A little bit further back, we wait to find the Phoenix Racing Audi. That's the next car in the line on the lead lap. Rene Rast, the Porsche Super Cup champion, and well noted for Porsche racing, but now a factory Audi driver as well. They're 4th. and then we wait and wait and wait for Jack LeBrock in the number 63 car, and they're going to be further down the train behind a whole group of cars. That's the United Autosports Audi with Marcus Winkelhock behind the wheel. They're 6th. They're actually a lap behind this leading group of cars, but still looking in pretty good form. There's 7th position, Maro Engel, the pole city yesterday with a brilliant 2-minute 3.8 second lap, and they're pounding around a couple of laps behind the pace in 7th.
And there is the damaged car that we've been waiting for around the first corner. Jacques Lebrock, then, we expect to see him out of that car in about 23 minutes and 2 seconds. And why am I being so precise about that? Because you can do an hour on a tank of fuel. So expect to see him in just before that we tick into the final hour to put Will Davison back in that car and set him on full attack to the end of the race. Tactics looks to be going pretty well. John Bow and Craig Lowndes having a bit of a laugh down in the pits.
We were joking with them earlier in the week that it was 1994 here, bearing in mind it's 2014, so 20 years ago, when a bright young upstart called Craig Lowndes fired a move around the outside of Bathurst champion John Bow at turn 2 and took the lead of the Bathurst 1000 with less than an hour to go, and launched a career that has spanned 20 years at the very, very top of his game. 3 championships, 5 Bathursts, and more than 90 victories at the top. And it was ironic now that they end up back at Mount Panorama sharing a car that's in contention for the race victory.
It just scares me a little bit, because I remember when Craig Lowndes was being talked about as one of the new young things in Aussie V8s. The 65 here is a unique car as far as this race is concerned this weekend. This looks very much like a 1960s, 1970s car. It is in fact an homage to that. The Daytona Coupe sitting in the lead of Class D at the moment, and that car has got a great story behind it. It crashed very heavily early in the practice. Watch it. Oh, this just hurts me every time I see it. And that wasn't just the bodywork that took the hit. All of the front chassis members right back to the engine had a massive hit, and they basically dismantled the car in the pit lane, but they didn't have quite enough parts, so they stayed up all night and waited them to come from all parts, Melbourne, Perth, all over the place, and started putting it back together at 3 in the morning, fired it up just before race time. It had a water leak, and then they had to try and get it back into the race. It has done, and now it leads. Fan favourite? Yes, sir.
Yeah, one of those great Bathurst can-do moments, and they worked really, really hard to get that car on the track. Yep, they got parts from Melbourne, 1,000 kilometres driven up the Hume Highway overnight, more than that in fact. Overnight, got here at about midnight, and they started putting that car back together. They've had their troubles today, but generally they've been very good, and we all agree that that's the fastest car in a straight line.
Yes.
We've got no maths to back that up, but based on it pulled out and passed an Erebus Mercedes in a straight line earlier on today, that thing is an absolute rocket ship. Great fun to watch, and great to see all the different cars running in the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 Hour.
And that is the 19 car in 10th position, and that's the Damien Flacken at Roche Vispa RS75 with Rob Smith, I think, at the wheel of that at the moment.
Here's the Hulk, Eric Bannett behind the wheel of the Lamborghini, running 11th and doing an absolutely superb job in this Class B Lambo. They're 4th in class at the moment, and a couple of laps back from the number 19 Porsche we just saw, who's further up the road. But Eric's done a superb job. Remember, this is his game of golf. This is what he does for fun, between making Hollywood blockbuster movies like Star Trek. So he's a fantastic driver, though, very, very capable, and along with Simon Middleton and Peter Hill, has done a very good job today.
Wouldn't put a bet against somebody ahead of them having an issue and them actually being on the podium, and that would be an excellent result for this car, and it is Banner that is in the car at the moment. And if you must have seen it, you're in Australia, most of you who are watching this, you must have seen Loving the Beast, and if you haven't, it's a piece of national treasure, the way that Eric talks about his cars, and that car in particular.
This is amazingly the sole surviving Lamborghini in the race. We started with 3 of them at the start of the day, and 2 were out basically before halfway. Stephen Richards took a turn in the lead, driving the M Motorsport car, was very, very fast, setting very quick lap times, and we saw Peter Cox run into some native wildlife early on and took them out of the race. And from the sublime to, well, I'm not going to say ridiculous because these are proper little racing cars, but from the sublime to something a little bit offbeat. It's the Fiat 500R Bath. It's driven by Paul Stoker and a bunch of Australia's best motoring journalists, and they have had a fantastic day.
Yeah, it's darling in the wheel of that at the moment. A 1.4 inline four-cylinder turbocharged engine for upwards of 150 horsepower. They look fantastic, and Abarth have been racing since there's been an Abarth and a Fiat 500. It's great to see them back in Australia and back on the mountain. This is interesting. Craig Lowndes is getting himself ready to go motor racing,
which is exciting for everybody watching this race, and this is the car who'll jump in. Just to touch on the Fiat, to show you how good those cars are, their best lap is identical to the fastest lap of a four-wheel drive turbo Subaru Impreza WRX. Yeah. They are potent little racing cars, those Fiat 500R Baths, and that's been a great project. So Mika Salo continues behind the wheel of the Maranello Ferrari. He's dropping a little bit of time to Maxi Book, but it's topping and tailing a little bit as they each hit traffic every lap around this 6.213 kilometre circuit. So he's closing in, then he loses a bit of time as he gets the traffic, but Lowndes will jump in with an hour and 17 to go and take over this car to
I think the key thing, Paul Truswell, is that it's not going out massively, and Mika Salo is keeping Maxi Burke effectively in sight.
Absolutely, it's going to come down to the pit stops. We know they've got another pit stop to make. When they cars come in, it'll be handing over to different drivers, and then that'll be whether they change tyres as well. If they can keep the car on the same tyres, then of course they'll be a lot quicker in the pits because you can't refuel and change tyres at the same time. It's going to be down to the work in the pits as much as it is to the drivers on the track.
There is the Erebus Mercedes that we expected to be at the head of the field, and following it, one of the legion of Audis that started this race. Oh, this is a disaster. This is the number 3 car that's René Rast in 4th position. This car's had cut out electrical problems in the race. Rahel Fry was behind the wheel earlier on and had a couple of laps where 20 seconds disappeared from her times, and basically it cycled through the electrics and the car seems to fire and go on, and there for a moment it looked like it was going to happen again,
and somehow or another they managed to get themselves back onto the lead lap and in contention, and then more dramas strike. But that's racing at Mount Panorama. That's the way it goes. So
it's not up to pace.
It's
really
better than it was going up Mountain Straight, but yeah, it's not up to full-on racing pace. Just going past was Marcus Winkelhock in the United Autosport car. They've done a really good job today as well. They have stayed out of trouble and just circulated, and they're going to get themselves a good result if they can get to the flag. I say that because they were in a very similar position last year. In fact, they might have almost been in the same position, United. It rained very, very hard towards the end of last year's race, and a young Kiwi driver, Brendan Hartley, was driving the car, ended up crashing at the top of Mount Panorama. This time, though, they've got their gun in the car. Marcus Winkelhock driving really, really well, and we'll see if they can get it to the flag.
That number 1 car, the purple and black machine, many laps down, and sensibly Maro Engel allows Chris Meese to go through. 11th position for the Audi.
Yesterday was a big day for Maro Engel.
Yeah.
Hindy, that was a massive moment to get pole position here, and his troubles have been well documented. Of course, a full-time V8 supercar driver last year lost his ride with Erebus downscaling to 2 cars. It was a big moment. This is a cool thing. This is an Aussie-built, Aussie-designed race car. It's called a Mark Focus. Mark Race Cars Australia, a project headed up by a noted racer, Ryan McLeod, son of 87 Bathurst champion Peter. And this is a fantastic car, and it's a turnkey enduro race car, purpose-built to pound round and round and round Mount Panorama all day, and then go and do it at Spa or the Nürburgring the next week. And
this is in the
traffic jam.
This is in the pit lane, and the guys are coming in. It's the 22 Seat Supercopa with their blown right front tyre, the Redi Hiraki sponsored car, and that was a problem for the number 3 of Rahel Frey, who is in the pit lane now.
So the Phoenix car comes in. This car's got some damage on the right front. They've run through the gravel trap. The splitter hanging down there, all lots of dirt and debris out, and they've got a front tyre down as well. So this is the Motorsport Services team. They're from New Zealand, not far from Auckland. They're based at the Hampton Downs circuit, which is one of the new circuits built over there in our Kiwi cousins' homeland. And they've done a great job. They've been fantastic supporters of this race too, bringing a pair of Porsches and 2 of the Seats to come and run in this race.
Now that looks like a fairly standard driver change and fuel. Look, nothing else being done other than a driver change, because you're not allowed to. the team manager, the guy in the black shirt with his hand on his head. The reason his hand's on his head there, he's pushing the push to talk on the radio. He's talking to his drivers, talking them through. Don't forget the lap belts. Get yourself strapped in properly. Let's head down to the McLaren pit. Still third place for Andrew Kirkcaldy. Nunes is down there.
Thought I'd take you for a little bit of a tour through here, guys. We'll get Dave, our cameraman, to come with me on this. Shane van Gisbergen back in the garage, ready to go for the last stint of the race. There he is, smile for the camera. Hey, come around with me here too. Clark Quinn, Tony Quinn, sitting by, watching on, intently waiting. There's a lady hiding up the back here, and she doesn't want to know about this. This is Clark's mum. He's put his mum on the pit crew. How bad's his form? Hey, I know she's running away. We'll leave her alone now, but one thing I wanted to show you too, this car's running on Pirelli tyres. Have a look at what's ready here. This is what we call a sticker tyre. It's so new, it's brand new. It's got the sticker on, so SVG will have the best rubber for the run home to the checkered flag.
And Pirelli have done a cracking job in giving a tyre that is durable for that McLaren. There was talk of them possibly even triple stinting them. That's 3 hours nearly of racing. They've only had to double them at the moment, and that has been key to keeping this car in the fight, as well as the pace of the car and the driver. Michelin are acknowledged as the guys at the top of the game as far as endurance racing. If you think back to Le Mans last year, the winning Audi did the whole of the 24-hour race on just 9 sets of Michelin tyres, including a quintuple stint over 3 hours of racing at the world's hardest 24-hour race. And this tyre battle is great for us. It's also great for the tyre companies, because this is a rolling laboratory that you're seeing out there. The technology that comes out of what you're seeing in the endurance racing side of things makes it onto your street car much quicker than you'd expect.
And great management as well from the teams to look after their tyres as well, because you only get 10 new sets of tyres to last you for 4 practice sessions on Friday, 3 qualifying sessions yesterday, and 1 12-hour race today. So good management for VIP Pet Foods Racing to get 1 brand new set free, put them to the side of the garage, forget you've even got them, and bolt them on when you put the fast Kiwi on for that run to the flag. So this car is a contender, and not many people thought it would be. This is the first time it's raced in Australia, and it has impressed.
Van Gisbergen, he's going to have his work cut out though, because the Andrew Kirkcaldy has lost some 20 seconds or so on the lead battle between the Mercedes and the Ferrari. So it's going to be a big job for Van Gisbergen to get on with.
So we've seen him do it before. He pulled back 24 seconds earlier on in the race on Bernd Schneider, so it's doable. Will he have enough time to do that, rather than the pace of the car and the pace of Shane van Gisbergen? Will he have enough time left at the end of the race? And that is what they will be working out right now on this 37 car. How much longer before we think the McLaren will be into the pit lane, Paul?
I would say any time in the next 10 minutes. In fact, probably, yeah, next 2 to 3 laps.
Right. You want to get it as close to an hour to go. There's an hour and 11 to go at the moment. If you can get it to an hour, that will be your last stop, and you will race to the checkered flag. The reason that you get your last stop done as quickly as possible in endurance racing, because you might think you'd want to go as long as you can and then short fill to get to the end. As soon as you get your last fuel stop or driver stop and tyre stop done, it means if the safety car comes out, you can't have your tactics messed about. You can't get caught on the wrong side of a full course caution. So the accepted thinking, if you are at the head of the field, is to get your last pit stop done as soon as you can. That's dictated by how much fuel goes in. 100 litres for these cars, roughly speaking, about an hour.
Tony Richards, the Kiwi driver behind the wheel of the number 67 Porsche 997 GT3 Cup car. These are the cars that race in the one-mate Porsche Carrera Cups around the world, and this is a 2010 specification car. He's been sharing this with Jeff Lowry from New Zealand, and John O'Venter, who's a sensational young driver, races Porsches in NZ, came out of an open wheel background, and they've had a challenging day, let's be honest, and they're running in 28th position, 189 laps in the books compared to 265 for our race leader.
The 97 BMW, the Timonava Luxury Resort sponsors E92. That car not in the first flush of youth either, but still a competitive race car, and a perfect example of the variety that we can get in Class D.
And this has been a great story. 2 father and son combinations, Warwick Mortar and his son Andre, Michael Lyons and Frank Lyons, son and father there. Michael Lyons was racing in F5000 last weekend. This is what's happened recently in the race. Dramas for the #1 car. Well, that was a contender for 8 hours of this motor race.
And it was a brake problem that cost them 6 laps. Then a mix-up in the pitch. Watch that pit board on the right-hand side leaning up against the grey brick column. It should be behind the red line when this car goes. It's not. That cost a 30-second drive-through. Next time around, going to make the same mistake? Oh, no, we'll take it back. Make sure you don't make it twice. Once is bad enough. A little bit of unnecessary contact with one of the GTC Ford Focus, and the Audi sent that one around at the Falcon Tyres elbow.
And this was the battle for the lead that was just thrilling stuff, with Mika Salo applying the pressure to Greg Crick. But the race for the lead develops again because the McLaren has pulled into pit lane with Andrew Ciccoldi jumping out. Such an intense battle, and it ebbed and flowed, and there was some really wild, tough racing. Maxi Book went down the inside of Mika Salo. Soon thereafter, he would take the lead away from the similar, although slightly more damaged, it must be said, SLS AMG. And it was intense stuff, bearing in mind there was still an hour and a half to go in the motor race. This was a great move from Mika.
Oh, come from all the way back through the dummy. Watch what he does here. Gets the crossover. It looks like he's going to go down the inside early, but he had to drop in behind the Mercedes-Benz of Greg Crick, and then comes at the very last yawning moment, dives up the inside into Hell Corner, got the position and set off on the pursuit of Maxi Burke. This is live out of the McLaren. Has jumped Andrew Ciccoldi, and in has jumped Shane van Gisbergen. In goes the fuel. Set of new Pirellis, yes please. Sticker tyres waiting to go on that car.
Yeah, so this is a good stop. Team going away, so you can only do fuel and the driver change at once, and you can only have a number of drivers over the line at any one time, and the driver that's jumped out of the car will generally be the driver's assistant, who helps the other driver strap in. Right now, fuel's done, tyres can be done, and you're only allowed 2 rattle guns at any one time, so you can only change 2 wheels at any one time. Keeps costs down, keeps it safe in pit lane as well. So tyres going on.
Look at how precise the guys are being when they're mounting the wheels, making sure that they are getting that on the pegs, on the hook. There's not any time to recover now from any issues. You've got to make sure that this is right. A tear off the screen. And what's going on here? Oh, they couldn't make their mind up about whether we're going to do something inside the car. Slammed the door to make sure it was properly closed.
Yeah, so that was an issue, but they got away. It wasn't a bad stop there. So the Ferrari leaderboard, it's still the Mercedes leading the way, but Mika Salo continuing to put the pressure. But the final stops are starting to emerge here with the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12-hour. This race is going to go down to the wire. Erebus still in the game as well. The Michelin class leaders, Maxi Book in front. Further back, Mike Sinclair, the motoring journo, in the Fiat is next. And Andrew Meineke leads the way in the Mark Focus in Class I. More to come from the mountain. This race will be a thriller to the end.
This could be a pivotal part of the last hour and 2 minutes. We are watching final pit stops for 2 of the leading cars, first and second in the lane. The red Ferrari, already Mika Salo out, plugging Craig Lowndes. Let's have a new set of Michelin rubber, brand new, for this man who has to go all out and try and win the 2014 Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 hours. Behind him in the lane, the light-coloured Mercedes-Benz. Maxi Burke spinning up those wheels again. They're having some... Oh, they've got a problem with the front brake, and they're going to have to do brake pads. That's it. They're out of it. They're not going to get out of the pit lane quick enough, and this is handing the lead to Mika Salo 100 metres up the lane, pulling the pads out. You saw them there with the spreaders. In they'll go, and there is the de facto leader of the motor race rolling out, and this has gone all the way back to Ferrari in a race that's ebbed and flowed for the last 11 hours.
HTP are taking a gamble here. They think they might be a safety car towards the end, though. Maranello are absolutely pumped, having got that stop out of the way, and brilliantly done by the Melbourne-based team. But they are fired up. But I think HTP, they were either with massive issues, or they're just making sure they can stop as well as they can if we get a late race safety car, and they need to wade into battle with that Ferrari for the lead. But they're out of pit lane. They've dropped a stack of time in green flag running. That's all favour Ferrari for me.
We were just watching the way the cars were battling early on and wondering if the Mercedes-Benz were having a bit of issue on the braking front, and that really confirms it for me. And I wonder if the 63 Erebus car was having the same sort of issues, because certainly they were getting a little bit further back down the road when they were starting to do their braking. The 88 car then back out on the circuit.
Yeah, brakes are always a problem on the Mercedes because the weight of the car, and to run 12 hours is about the limit for a Mercedes without changing brakes. I'm just looking across at the VIP Foods pit crew. They've got a big sign saying no radio, which they're about to hang out over the pit wall to Shane van Gisbergen, and obviously that speaks for itself, but it means that van Gisbergen's not going to know what he's not going to know what's going on at every lap like he would normally do.
So Mika Salo out of the Ferrari. What a drive by Mika, and he's talking to the team, just running through what happened during that stint. Tell us about it, Mika. What's the car like? They would have been communicating that on the radio. Mika doesn't look overly happy about what's going on there. He's a bit animated, he's a bit distressed, but I think it's okay. I think Mika's all right. That was a ripper drive and a really good stint, and they've got them in a position to win this motor race. There's still an hour to go, and an hour at Mount Panorama can be an eternity. There is so much yet to happen on the mountain. We're on board with the Flying Kiwi, Shane van Gisbergen. Let's have a listen to the McLaren, the 12C, as he runs down Conrod Straight.
Where's the cruiser?
He was never going to take his foot off the throttle, and they break it just after 150 metres to get the car stopped. The aero effect and the downforce on these cars help them stop so very, very well. Smooth, in control, and working very, very nicely. It's a great noise too. High revving V8, not quite as rich as the Ferrari, not quite as shrieky, I guess, as the Ferrari, in fact. It's a deeper noise, bigger capacity, but thundering up the hill, and van Gisbergen's done a superb job today. To reiterate what we talked about before, fastest ever man around Mount Panorama in a car with a roof. F3 cars have gone quicker in qualifying trim, but van Gisbergen did a 3.8 in the race early on today, which was just unbelievably fast. And he is driving at the very peak of his powers. Remember, raced at the Rolex 24 at Daytona, the opening round of the United Sports Car Championship in the United States, raced a Porsche there, and I think became a bit of a cult hero or something in the United States because of it.
Absolutely right. So Mika Salo out, and we've plugged in Craig Lowndes into the 88 car.
So look at the flow across the top, John, in this car, and he's dealing through traffic, and this is a constant in this race. You have to negotiate traffic and just keep your flow up, be smooth and in control, and that's what van Gisbergen's doing right now. He's had some hairy moments early on, but this is working very nicely for him so far. In control. And if you compare this to a lap in his Techno Autosport V8 Supercar, be working harder, be making more adjustments, but the fact these cars have got so much grip really helps the cause here at Mount Panorama in the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 hour.
So the big question is, how far can these guys go to the end of the race? We know the 88 car can go all the way to the end. The 37, Shane van Gisbergen, probably not. We think that one's going to be a tiny bit short. The big question is Jacques Lebrock in this 63 car. Is there enough in the tank of that Mercedes, that Erebus Mercedes, to go to the end? Paul Truswell puts 2 thumbs up and says, yes, John, there is.
But remember, we heard before that they will stop again and put Will Davison in this car for the run to the flag. Whether they were sending us misinformation or not, we don't know, and they're all playing the quiet game at the moment with 56 minutes to go in an astonishing Liqui-Moly 12 hour of 2014.
But if they're going to do that, then it'll be a short run for Will Davison, because what you'd want to do is run this all the way to the end of its fuel and have a timed fuel stop. The problem with that is it takes a finite time to change the driver, and if you're standing still longer than it takes the fuel, then you've lost the advantage.
If Jack's anyway going quick enough, then it really doesn't matter that much. So
yeah, and he's got good pace, Paul, last time in the 6s. So a 6.8 last time round for Jacques Lebrock. He's got good speed in the Erebus car, so he's got good pace, so he will be competitive. Grant Boyd, and you've got more from a very hot pit lane at Mount Panorama.
Yeah, an interesting little story is taking place with Eric Banner, who's just made his way past the start-finish line again. As you can see, the crew in the background standing by for Eric to come in. Unfortunately, his two-way radio doesn't work. What they've been doing is putting this board out, trying to let Eric know, come into pit lane. He is running out of fuel. The fuel gauge is only a very rough indication, and this crew are starting to worry.
Nicely done with the signage there, Boydo. So dramas for Eric Banner. They need to get that car in. The worst thing you can do is run it out of fuel.
And here it is. Here it is. The leader is in the pit lane. We said it had to be around about the hour mark. Well, they've gone down to 55. This is the roll of the dice for the Erebus Motorsport Mercedes SLS. This is the only one of their two cars that can lead it. He's come storming into the pit lane and just about gets the car slowed down. Let's go down to Shea Adam, who's standing right in front of this final pit stop.
A final pit stop and a final driver change. Will Davidson will get behind the wheel of the car. They are putting medium Michelin tires on the car, which means that they should come up to temperature but not fall off so quickly. So Will should be able to get several good laps out of this car. They are hoping to maintain the lead with just over an hour to go.
And it's a good stop so far. There's Will Davison, formerly a factory Ford driver. He switched to Erebus now for the V8 Supercar season in 2014. Exciting times for the Erebus team in the V8s. And look, the HTP Merc was just about to go through, John, to change positions. So they drop back down the order, and the toing and froing in this race continues.
Well, you just don't put your house on anybody at the front end of this, because it's like they go through. There's Max, there's the 84 car going through. That's the HTP Mercedes-Benz. That's how close it was. Wow, that is a fantastic piece of pit work. The 84 car with Maxi Burke at the wheel has just nipped through. And that is going to be bad news for the 63 car. That's an extra car they're going to have to pass now. The 84 car, can that go to the end from here? That's the big question as they head up the mountain again.
Yeah, and that is the big question, but that car's still, for me, the X factor in this one. I don't know how they'll go. Now, this is the chase. Just a moment ago, bouncing across the gravel trap that's the Calvert Jones, the Ice Brake Racing Porsche.
What a day they've had. If they haven't been leading, they have been certainly giving us plenty of action out there. 2 punctures and then a big off at the end of the chase.
And Alex Davison behind the wheel, a Carrera Cup champion of Australia. So even the best can make mistakes. Here's Eric Banner. He got the message. The pit board worked.
The same script.
Yes.
That's what they did. Give him a cue, he'll hit it. He's a professional.
We've got a great role for you, Eric. It's called a driver change. You'll love it. It's exciting. It's meaty. It's all yours. So driver change going in. These guys have performed brilliantly today, and they've lapped all day long consistently. They've stayed out of trouble, and proof again that if you do that at Mount Panorama, 9 times out of 10 you'll jag a good result, and that's what they've done. So the Ferrari across the line, Lowndes leading the race. The margin is building. We need to look back to Van Gisbergen in the McLaren, who will be second. Maximilian Buch, the young German, in third in the HTP Mercedes. And at this stage, we're showing the Phoenix Audi, I think, with Van Thor, has jumped Davison in that pit stop cycle. So remember that extra stop there for the 63 car towards the end. We'll confirm that with you going through. They've had some timing issues with that car all day after that crash earlier on.
However, what you can say is that there's absolutely nothing between the leaders as we watch this stop for the 99 Lamborghini. A new set of tyres. Only 10 sets of tyres for the 12 hours and all the practice and qualifying. So you do have to manage that fairly carefully, whether you're on the Mitchies, the Michelins or the Pirellis. And it looks like the FXD Clothing 99 Class B Lambo will go down in a moment. Let's get down to Boydo in the pit lane.
We've been told to back off, sorry. We've been told to back off.
Oh, well, it's getting a little bit tense down there. I think it's Primat that's in the 84 car rather than Maxi Burke, by the way. There's a couple of bits and pieces that are just changing. Shane Van Gisbergen's just been slotted into the 37 car at the last stop, and that's just changed on the timing and scoring if you're watching at home.
Or was it Thomas Jaeger? I think it might be Thomas Jaeger.
We'll confirm that for you. That car is somewhere in the mix for a podium finish, regardless, after a very, very strong day. The clock ticks down at Mount Panorama, 51 minutes to go, and it's busy in pit lane. It's a dangerous place, and some toing and froing as the 99 car that Eric Banner's just jumped out of has to take some evasive action. Maro Engel in the number 1 car had to drive around and just, it's like negotiating the main street of Bathurst on a Friday night when all the youth are out enjoying themselves. Great city, Mount Panorama, or Bathurst, and a great racetrack, Mount Panorama. As number 1 comes in, for me, what could have been for this car today.
And Maro Engel, who brought that car in, will be thinking exactly the same. He's done a great job over the weekend, snagged the Alan Simonson Pole Award on Saturday here on the mountain, and therefore, to coin a phrase, there'll be a new name on the trophy, because it will not be the defending champions who managed to hold on to the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 hours. But will it be the same team? Will it be the team car? They seem to have fumbled themselves out of this one. It could be a new manufacturer, because we've never had McLaren win here.
And Ferrari have never won the 12-hour either. And in fact, Ferraris have had a good run at this race. The Maranello team have not. Clearwater Racing, an Asian team, we saw them taken out, based in Singapore, but they were taken out early in the race when Hamaguchi had that big crash at the top. Boydo, you found your man. You've got Eric Banner in pit lane.
Yeah, I certainly do. We had to give him a few moments to take a little bit of a breather and get some cool air. It's tough out there, Eric.
Yeah, it's real hard work now. It's considerably hotter in the cabin. I think just residual temperature, just feet are getting hot, everything's getting hot. Stuck the hand out to get some air in a couple of times. But we're getting there.
And even harder when you don't have a two-way radio. Did you see that sign that they were waving out at you, or did you just take the punt and come in?
We haven't had a radio for about the last 3 hours, and so we had half a plan there, and no radio, no water, and we're just hydrated before going in, and yeah, it's up to Pete to bring it home now, but it's still pretty awesome out there.
I think you'd have to be pretty happy with the way this whole team has performed this weekend, sitting right up there and doing a good job, and you haven't suffered the major issues of some of the other teams further up pit lane.
Yeah, look, we've had a few small niggles, but we really can't complain. We're, a bunch of guys that just put an entry together. We've got 3, non-pro drivers, so we're really, really happy. We've been quite realistic with what we're trying to achieve, and I just really want to see the car come home in one piece now.
Glad you're enjoying your motorsport. Thanks for your time.
No worries, Grant. Cheers.
Great stuff to hear from Eric Banner, who really loves going car racing. And this is our race leader. It's Craig Lowndes. This is a familiar place for him.
Now, we are in the area now where you've got to work out who can go to the checkered flag at 6:15 local time. That's what, some 45 minutes away. This car, yes, absolutely. They were right in the window when they came in and took out the flying fin and threw in the Craig Lowndes driving machine, as we've got someone going down the...
That looks like another Porsche with another right rear.
Yes, it really is, and it's down Conrod again.
This has been a trend today for Porsches in particular, just popping that right rear tyre. So this is the Canberra team, Superbarn Supermarkets Racing. Steve Owen behind the wheel, car number 69. And the great man Steve Owen, who's been racing in Development Series and main game Enduro co-driver Phoenix Racing.
Let's have a look at this pit stop. This is the last pit stop for the number 3 Phoenix Racing car. They put in Lawrence Vanter. That's all great. Now look on the right-hand side. You can just about see the pit board there. Remember, we had a drive-through penalty. We've had a couple of tweets from people who seem to think that that might not have been taken away when the car pulls away. And Race Control have seen those tweets as well, and they are concerned that they might have broken the pit rules.
Dobbed in on social media, isn't it? The new world we live in. B12HR trending on Twitter around Australia as well. Now they go to tyres, so they go through the process, but I'd suggest it looked like they did leave that board out. Now, we should reiterate, there's a red line in the garages in pit lane. No one across that line, and nothing across that line unless it is held by the car controller. So there is a drama for Phoenix, and if indeed it stay out, they will get penalised. But Race Control keen to see what was going on there for the Phoenix Racing camp.
And one of the things about televising motor racing nowadays is that you have the evidence there for Race Control. They can see it, so they're allowed to make the call to the truck and say, can we see that piece of evidence, which is effectively what it is. You become a judge of fact.
And we need to comply with Race Control. They'll give us a drive-through penalty. Yeah. So this is the Ferrari that leads the race. Now, they can go to the end.
Yes.
We think.
No, I know that they can go to the end because they came in just on the hour mark, and that car can do an hour. So Craig Lowndes at the moment leading the motor race, starting lap 276 as he heads up the mountain straight. Now in second place and 22 seconds further behind is that bright orange MP12 of Shane van Gisbergen, the McLaren. There it is. Now, I am just as certain that without some safety car, that car cannot go to the end unless they have been playing fast and loose with us all day, Paul Truswell. That car has not gone the time that has left to the end of the race.
I'm doing it on number of laps. It can do 293 laps by my reckoning, and my calculation is that the race is going to be 292.
Oh,
now,
so they can.
It's right on the cusp. It depends. If we get a safety car, it's not a problem. If the pace is really hot and Van Gisbergen is going to be as hot as he possibly can, then it's going to be an issue. It's going to be right on the cusp. They're going to be running on fumes at the end of the 12 hours.
Last time round, Craig Lowndes 206.8, Shane Van Gisbergen 205.9. He's flying. He's closing the gap. It's down to 20 seconds, 45 minutes to go. There is time for this race to go down to the line. But catching Craig Lowndes is one thing, getting past is another.
And stressing the car and the tyres the way that Van Gisbergen is going to have to do, as opposed to Craig Lowndes, who is not cruising, but he is measuring his pace. 2 wheels off the ground there, down through the S as he takes so much curb. Now in third place, the 84 Mercedes-Benz. That car came in with 1 hour and 7 minutes to go. It's sitting pretty at the moment, the HTP Mercedes-Benz, but 1 hour and 7 in the Merc, I'm not sure about that one either. Paul Truswell will crunch the numbers as we watch the leader, Craig Lowndes, in elegant isolation at the moment as he comes off the end of the chase.
Van Gisbergen flying this lap. He's taken another 1.5 seconds out of Lowndes, and they haven't even got to the start-finish line yet. So absolutely flying as we confirm the Pirelli outright leaderboard. Craig Lowndes leads the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12-hour. Shane Van Gisbergen second and flying. Maximilian Book in third. Will Davison sits fourth.
And look, we've got the two Class B cars in 8th and 9th position, driven by Earl Bamber and Alex Davison, and the Michelin Clash leaderboard, so that the Class C Ridges category is headed by a Lotus. We're coming back after this break to go all the way to the checkered flag for the 2014 Liqui-Moly 12 Hours of Bathurst. Can Van Gisbergen chase down the leader? We'll find out next. Well, we're down to the last 40 minutes of the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 Hours for 2014, and leaning out and looking down the pit lane, we can see the pit boards. It's got down to the fact where the teams aren't even using their radios now because tactics is so important, and we're expecting to see Shane Van Gisbergen in second place be called in by his McLaren team. The pace of the race has picked up so much that now the projected race distance is probably 2 or 3 laps further than the McLaren has fuel. And here is the confirmation, and this is really big news. They were hoping to go all the way to the end. I was pretty sure they couldn't, and the pace has picked up enough that they absolutely can't. Now they're not going to risk it, and Van Gisbergen will give up track position to get a splash of fuel.
So fuel going into the car now. They'll go in and give SVG a drink of water quickly. It won't be long. They'll stopwatch will be on the fuel. They know the rate that it flows into the car. And now we'll see some special times from Shane Van Gisbergen. Maxi Book goes through. That's second. Will Davison goes through. That's third. And the McLaren will be fourth. But it will have a very fired-up Kiwi driver, as if he wasn't already, charging forward with 39 minutes to go. If we get a safety car, however, the game changes completely, and this car probably becomes the favourite.
That was stationary for a much longer time than I expected to put 2 or 3 extra laps of fuel in. I think they've put a bit extra in than they needed to, and there's drama on the mountain because that 65 car has not got all 8 of its V8 cylinders running.
Yeah, definitely finish up Daytona.
So the 65 car is sick on the mountain coming down onto Conrod Straight.
And just had to pull out of the way there because faster cars coming through. We've already seen drama with the 65 car. That's what caused the damage on the car that Will Davison is currently driving. Here's Van Gisbergen already out of pit lane, straight on the offensive, getting past Lawrence Van Thor. So Craig Lowndes leads Maximilian Book by 29.2 seconds, with Shane Van Gisbergen. It would be Will Davison behind, and then Van Gisbergen about 15 seconds further back, Paul.
I also have calculated that both Lowndes and Book are going to have that same problem of a splash of fuel they're going to need. They're unless we have a safety car. They're 2 laps short of the race distance if we have full racing speed from here to 6:15, the closing, the end of the race.
Can Lowndes not just back it off enough that he can control it at the head of the field? He's got half a minute between him and the rest of the field. This is a sign going out of Van Gisbergen. Let's have a look to see what this says before Paul answers it. Map 1 push. Right, full reach, go, go, go. It's basically saying, we've taken you off the leash now, son. If you're going to win this race, you've got to give it stick. Let's go back to what I said about Craig Lowndes. Can he match his pace and look for 6:13 plus 1 lap? Because that's what the regulation says.
He'll have to wind down the mapping and do less and do less fast lap times. You just have to slow the pace, and that might not be enough with Van Gisbergen pushing hard.
And that's what's happening. Trusses Lowndes last time round 2:11.5. I think HTP Motorsport have gone, we're gonna have to stop anyway. Go as hard as you can, because Maxi Book, a low, or 2-minute 5.7, 6 seconds quicker. He is flying. Lowndes is going to try and get there without stopping. HTP are going to try and get there with a stop.
The thing about saving fuel is you've got to do that from the start of your stint, really, to make the difference. I think Lowndes has not been soft pedalling, but I certainly think that he has been matching his times to the guys behind. Now it's about managing that gap. It's down to 25 seconds between him and Maxi Burke in second place, but the real charger will be Van Gisbergen, and that is 1 minute and 2 seconds with just 37 minutes to go. And the bright orange McLaren has been set to go, and Van Gisbergen goes down the inside and takes the position. That's 5th place. That is 5th place and 4th place, and Davidson is not that far up the road. Will Davidson will be the next target for Shane Van Gisbergen.
And remember, Davison could go to the end because they had that last late driver change to put Will back in the car after Jack LeBrock drove. We saw them bouncing across the gravel on the entry to pit lane. So all of a sudden, the 63 Erebus car looks like it's within a shot. But so's the HTP Mercedes, and so's the Maranello Ferrari. There are 4 cars, possibly 5, if you take into account the car that Van Gisbergen's just flown past, the Phoenix Audi, in with a shot at winning this motor race with 35 minutes to go, and that is a remarkable scenario.
This place keeps turning out brilliant motor races. Cast your mind back to October and the finish of the 1000. The last 15-20 minutes of that was edge of the seat stuff all the way through, and this is shaping up to be exactly the same for slightly different reasons. You've got guys, again, talked about the variety earlier on. It's not all going to be the same tactics. Craig Lowndes picks up his pace to a 2:09 last time around. They've got to think they've got track position, and giving up the lead at this stage is something that they will not want to countenance. What they are looking at is what's going on behind, and they will cover anyone behind. Van Gisbergen is now within a minute. He's already taken 3 seconds off the leader, and that's the car that they will be measuring themselves against. The other guys probably have to stop as well. Let's get down to the lane and Neves.
John, I just checked in at Maranello with Jeremy Moore, race engineer for Craig Lowndes. I had to ask the question, are you good on fuel? He looked at me and said, we're okay. His data engineer to his left had his fingers crossed. This is not a done deal by any stretch of the imagination. Lowndes could become the 5th man to win the Bathurst 1000 and the 12-hour and join the likes of Alan Grice, the late great Greg Hansford, Tony Longhurst and John Bowe, but this has got a long way to go. They're not home and host here. There's still plenty of nerves at Maranello Motorsport.
And a couple of pit stops ago, we got some oil going into the back. Now, this is what happened to the leader a couple of moments ago. This is how close things can be on the mountain. I'm going right, I'm going left, and he's right across the grass. How does Craig Lowndes hold onto that? I just want to have a look at the back, the white colour on the back of that Maranello Ferrari, because a couple of pit stops ago, they're laughing now. They wouldn't have been if he'd gone into the wall. Phew, I bet you Lowndes he's not laughing. A few pit stops ago, we saw a red bottle going onto the back of the 88 car, and I'm just starting to see from the exhaust pipes right in the middle of the back of the rear valance, the white part, a little bit of a haze and just a little bit of dirt on there, and I'm just wondering if they're starting to use a little bit of oil on that 4.5 V8.
It's fine, don't worry. So they've got bigger things to worry about, like lap cars. That was a monumental moment at the top of Mount Panorama. Remember, these cars with their aerodynamic grip and their big tyres at 205 kilometres an hour as they turn in to McPhillamy Park. It's so fast, and he had all 4 wheels off the road.
Maxi Burke is back out to 21.2 seconds, and it is Maxi Burke at the wheel. It was just Primat with his helmet on, leaning in at that last stop, as we said. And who is chasing him down? It's Will Davidson, and he's just a couple of seconds back down the road. And then you've got about 25 seconds back to Shane van Gisbergen, who is chasing. And this car, we know, is filled. It's ready to go. He's on full rich, which means the engine is producing as much power as it possibly can. They are throwing fuel into the 8-cylinder engine of that McLaren and making power.
Yeah, raw fuel just exploding in the engine bay in that car, isn't it? As they try and get maximum power out of the McLaren, it's still 4th. This team finished 3rd last year in a Porsche, and no one predicted that at the start of the day. So once again, this team, who have won back-to-back Australian GT championships, are trying to deliver once again a strong result on the mountain. Davison is closing on foot as well. The gap is less than 2 seconds,
and that's great news
last time round.
Great news for Lowndes, because Burke is now going to have to deal with the car behind him and not worry about chasing the leader. All right, I'm going to ask the question. Lowndes, he stays out. Does he win it?
I think he does. Jeremy Moore has done this for a long time with CL in V8 supercar racing. He's a very, very, very smart person. They all have their fuel numbers right.
And that's his boy in the car as well. And they will be watching the fuel numbers on the dashboard. What we mean by that is that there's a readout on all of these cars. They're tremendously sophisticated. You don't just have a fuel gauge. You have numbers of how much literage of fuel you're using every lap. And you're basically looking at that to set your pace to it. Here's Will Davison for Erebus Motorsport through into the chase. And he is chasing down the 63, in the 63 at the moment, chasing down Maxi Burke in the similar Mercedes-Benz of HTP, and now he's got him in sight. And the kind of relief that you get as a driver when you can see the car you're racing ahead, doesn't matter if it's a speck in the distance, as soon as you see it, it gives you another half a tenth every corner, and traffic is not the friend of this Erebus Mercedes at the moment.
I tell you what, Will Davison was going through that Mark Ford Focus, even if he had to go underneath it in that final corner at Maguire's turn. He was absolutely committed in the braking zone at the final corner. Needed to dispose of the lap traffic as quickly as he could to chase down that Mercedes. So 2nd and 3rd, this is the battle for the podium. Lowndes 21 seconds up the road, and the pace has increased for Lowndes. These two have dropped back, so there might have been a radio call to Craig Lowndes going, all right, Craig, you're going to be okay on field. I think you might be all right. The other reason why I say I think he can win it, in his last 13 starts at Mount Panorama in the Bathurst 1000, he's finished outside the podium twice.
And there is Van Gisbergen coming round and onto the mountain straight. Don't worry about that Mercedes-Benz ahead of him. He is just now chasing. Everything in front has to be dealt with. It doesn't matter whether it's a pass for position. He's just got to keep charging until he sees the white rear end of Craig Lowndes' red 88 Ferrari.
The former racer Brett Francis, who heads up the VIP Pet Foods team, looking stressed. Certainly stressed on pit wall as he coaches Van Gisbergen around, and SVG was the fastest guy on the racetrack today. Lap 98 of 282 he set the fastest lap, 203.85, and as we touched on earlier, the fastest lap ever recorded by a car with a roof at Mount Panorama in race or qualifying.
By some distance.
By a massive margin. Well, the previous race lap record for this race was a 206.3. They're 3 seconds faster.
Yeah.
Some of that's down to the new track, yes, but some of it down to these top-notch cars, teams and drivers who've got assembled this year, the deepest ever field we've seen at the Liqui-Moly 12 hour.
Remember, in terms of pace and technology, if you're standing still in motorsport, you're actually going backwards because everything moves forward so quickly. And Shane van Gisbergen knows that, and he is on it. He is really, if he could do anything, the only thing more he could do is literally pick up that McLaren and throw it down the straight like a cricket ball. He is muscling that car, but then you see him inside, and look how calm, look how cool he is. He's not gripping the wheel hard. Fastest part of the circuit, turns into the fastest corner in Australia, and he looks like he's on a Sunday drive, and that's why he's so good.
I'm trying to reiterate to you at home how close this is at the moment, and how remarkable that we've got this situation after 1,754 kilometres and growing of top-notch motor racing at Mount Panorama. After 11 hours and 31 minutes, there are 5 cars covered by less than 1 minute, racing as fast as they can, almost, to the checkered flag. Some of them are saving fuel, but this is a sprint to the flag after 11 and a half hours of motor racing. It's unbelievable, Paul.
It is, yeah, and the interesting thing is it's not being done by safety cars. We've had an hour and a half now, fingers crossed we're not going to get any more, an hour and a half without having the safety car out.
Grant Boyden is down in the pit lane.
Yeah, with a very, very confident Clark Quinn. Clark, you've been confident since the get-go. Can Shane Van Gisbergen do it from this point?
He's smashing out the times. You know, if anyone can do it, it's SVG. He is smashing out the times. It's going to be tight, but yeah, it's going to be, you've got no more fingernails left.
And it's not even made worse by the fact that you can't coach him along. You've got no two-way communications to him.
Yeah, we lost the radio, but you know, he knows what he's got to do now. It's just race to the finish line. So he's doing a great job.
How important is it to you to be able to take out this race this weekend?
We'd love to do it. You know, we've been trying for so many years, so many times on the podium, but never clinched the first place. So, you know, just need to get that first place, and we'll keep trying until we get it.
We'll keep cheering you on. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, guys.
By the way, when we were talking about lap times earlier on, I should say that Shane Van Gisbergen's lap record here, the 2:03.85, is about half a second quicker than the outright record on the mountain by a Formula 3 car. Correct. That's how quick they are. The Formula 3 car is about a third of the weight of one of these McLarens out there. McLaren have not delivered in terms of outright wins in long-distance races. Indeed, I can only find in the history of this car 1 race win in a race over 3 hours, and that was the Barcelona 24 hours in 2012. It was the Lapidus Motorsport car. And as such, we've seen 1 or 2 people in Europe moving away from the McLaren and into Porsches, into Mercedes-Benz, and into particularly the Audi R8. There are 11 McLarens for sale in Europe at the moment, and their price, which was about 180,000 euros yesterday, is already going up through the roof. Formula Oddly Q, please.
Shane Van Gisbergen is flying at 2:05.0. Let's watch this man at work. He's the fastest man on Mount Panorama, and he's got 6.213 kilometres of the best racetrack in Australia to take him round.
Coming up to Griffin's Bend, let's just listen to a master at work. He's working the throttle. He can't see very much through Griffin and up towards the cutting. Listen how he works the throttle on the McLaren. Coming across the skyline now, he'll catch a little bit of traffic down through the gearbox. Bang, bang, bang on the paddle shift. Notice it's not a full steering wheel on the McLaren, styled very much after the Formula 1 cars. It's all carbon fibre, costs about 10 grand to replace. That's 10 grand euros, by the way.
No worries, small change for you, John. So second gear at Falcon Tyres elbow. This is Conrod straight, and up through the gears. You can see the gear change indicator on the digital dash in front of SVG. 5th gear now. And he'll grab 6. He's got the toe of the #1 Mercedes in front of him, so that will help the top line speed. 265, 75 k's an hour as they get down towards the kink. Some lap traffic. Is there any hesitation? Well, listen. Just as means he had to lift because of the slow cars in front. He sails one up the inside of the #1 Mercedes of Mauro Engel behind the wheel. That is a massive, massive move, but full of confidence, SVG, and he's flying. This is going to be a massive lap. Fastest of anybody this lap to the second intermediate at the exit of the cutting. He'll come around to the start-finish line. It should be a 5-something. Oh, it's a 6-0. He got that traffic at the end, cost him some time.
I tell you what, though, at the head of the field, Lounsey's still doing a great job. 2:07 last time around. But Maximilian Burke in second place has cut that lead. It was 21 seconds a few laps ago, and now it's down to 16 and a half. But Lowndes is just taking his pace from the guys behind him as they come down through the S's for the 286th time. And that just phenomenal stuff from these drivers to keep the concentration going. as the kilometres rack up.
And remember, record distance here is 292 laps set in 2011. That's 1,814 kilometres. So there's 1,770 odd at the moment. So there's a little bit to go, but they, the way they're going at the moment, they should get a new race record. Yeah. It shows the pace that they've been running this race at.
Now let's hear as the hands are stretched by Lounsey. No lift at all the way down to the 100-metre board before he starts to think about braking. In the 88 Ferrari, 16.5 seconds now, the gap between Lowndes and in second place Maxi Berg in that very quick 84 HTP Mercedes-Benz.
16 seconds, the closest.
He's doing really, I think, with 23 minutes left, he's doing absolutely the best thing. He's pacing himself to the guys behind and waiting to see if they jump. 2:06.2 last time for Craig Lowndes. That is a very good lap. He's still looking at his fuel numbers. There is Maxi Berg. The 84 HTP car has to now not hold back. Nobody can be conservative in traffic. There is Davidson, third position. These cars all racing for the win at the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 Hours in 2014. Van Gisbergen, he's looking to close down. He's got the gap to the lead down to 46.5 seconds. It seemed like moments ago when I was seeing it, it was 1 minute and 2.
The closest official finish at the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 Hour is 7/10 of a second, but that was stage managed. It was a form finish 1-2 between the two Audis in 2011. The closest racing finish when they were flat out all the way to the flag was 6.4 seconds in 2009, back in the production car days between a couple of Mitsubishi Lancers, Rod Salmon, Damien White, and former Bathurst 1000 winner Tony Longhurst. At the moment, 17.4 seconds the margin. Either way, it's remarkably close, but this is the closest top 5 in the closing stages of the race that we've ever seen.
And that's less than a minute from 1 through to 5. 17.4 first to second, 22 seconds first to third, 46 seconds first to fourth, and that is Van Gisbergen on a tear. 2:06.7 from him last time around. He needs to find a little bit more speed out of the McLaren, but that will just be lap traffic. It's when he gets a clear lap, Van Gisbergen, he is absolutely unbelievable. Chances are being taken now. There's nothing being left in the fast draw. You basically now have to put it out there. Patience is not going to help you at this point unless you're Craig Lowndes.
Well, this what we're looking at now is all helping Van Gisbergen too, because Will Davison quite badly balked all the way down from the top of Mount Panorama and costing him time, losing time to Van Gisbergen. We'll tell you how much in just a second when SVG gets to the second intermediate, but he is absolutely flying.
I love the lower, throaty rumble of that Mercedes 3. We're talking about variety in sports car racing. You've got the screaming Ferrari, the screaming and slightly harsher note of the McLaren, and then this big, almost visceral noise that comes from the Mercedes-Benz. Much lower revving engine, bags of torque. They make their lap times in different ways, but they are so closely matched. And after 11 hours and 40 minutes of racing, the top 5 are within a minute on the mountain.
It's incredible, isn't it? And here's Van Gisbergen. He's going past Marcus Winkelhock. It's a United Autosport Audi R8. They're currently in 6th position. 3 laps behind, I was right the first time, behind our leading cars. 285 laps for them. The former Formula 1 driver Winkelhock running that Audi, and they've done a great job today. Top 6 is a superb effort. Further down in the top 10, Maro Engel 7th, Earl Bamber leading Class B in the Porsche. He's got 2 laps up on Alex Davison. So the Grove Group Porsche, and there's a Porsche in the wall, 67 car. It's the Kiwis from Motorsport Services. They are parked to the top of the mountain somewhere. It's off to the side. I wonder if they'll leave that there.
Jeff Lowry at the wheel. He's done the right front suspension on that. 19 minutes to go. I don't know what I want. I don't want a safety car at this point, but we may not have a choice. I want to see this race run out its natural course. We've been over 2 hours of green, and there is the green flag after the incident. You know, that might be far enough away, and there is somewhere to pull that car back to if they can get a tow rope to it. He's clipped the wall on the right-hand side there, Crailsey.
Yeah, I think he's hit it quite hard, actually. He's punched it square on. So after the metal gate, that's race control.
I wouldn't be in there for quids.
A lot of pressure on them at the moment to make a decision about what's going on. There's some very experienced hands. A lot of damage. There is an access road just behind them by the John Hintzman Vista. There's a lookout on on the inside and there's an access road that they could drag that car into. So if there is a caution, it would be a very, very brief one, or could be a very brief one, but it's out of the way. There's the BMW M5 safety car.
It started its engine. The red lights came on at the back, the brake lights. That kind of means that it has started the car. Let's go down to Aaron Nunes in the pit lane.
Guys, this just reminds me of something. If you rewind your minds back to 2006, remember the end of the 1000? Remember our late great mate Jason Richards ended up in the fence there. Similar scenario, car parked in a similar position, and they let the race run. They did not go with the safety car, and it was at about a similar point of how many minutes were to go in the race. So let's keep our eyes on that BMW at the end of the lane. Everyone is waiting and watching here, particularly these guys at Maranello Motorsport, because if this safety car comes out, Shane Van Gisbergen is in the game.
26,000 people across the weekend has come here. We sold them a seat. They're only using the very, very edge of it at the moment, because with just on 20 minutes to go, in fact under that now, 18 minutes to go, we're on the cusp of something magical with the Maranello Ferrari leading by 17 seconds. Lowndes has picked up his pace again. Birkin, the Mercedes-Benz, in second place, is trying his hardest and takes 2 seconds out of the lead at that time. It's below 16 from first to second. In third place, the 63 Erebus Mercedes-Benz is 10 seconds further back, and he's got 20 seconds on Shane Van Gisbergen, the man who is most likely. He is the man who has been the star, and the safety car is rolling from the end of the pit lane. Full course caution with 18 minutes to go. This actually doesn't really... Well, it's going to change everything, because it'll close everything up. We have the top 5 within a minute, but Craig Lowndes gets to save fuel and will be able to turn the wick up, so it's not the worst thing that can happen for the Maranello Ferrari, Paul.
Yeah, that's right. And also, Maxi Buch was right on the cusp of his fuel as well, so this will help him in the number 84 HDP Mercedes. So it's going to close up, but it's going to mean that everybody can go flat out.
Let's go down to Grant Boyden in the pit lane. All sorts of emotions running high down there, Boyd.
Oh, you have no idea. The very moment that screen went yellow and the safety car came out, the entire VIP crew jumped for joy. And Clark Quinn, that's exactly what you were looking for. This puts you right back in the hunt.
Yeah, we'll be right behind the boys now. And, geez.
You're pulling your hair out now. You had a tough weekend too. You've got the flu, and your body just hasn't been 100%. This is just really taking the lot out of not only your body but your mind as well.
I'm going to have the next week off, I reckon. But, yeah, it's just been an incredible week. And, you know, the boys have done such a great job. The car is sensational. The McLaren is just fantastic. The Pirellis are holding up really well. And, you know, the whole team's doing a fantastic job. So, you know, SVG, he is a legend, and he'll be the next legend that we're talking about that's going around Bathurst. So, you know, all hail him. But, you know, we're still in 4th, so we can't be celebrating too much yet, but he has got pace. So, let's see how we go.
Fingers, legs, and anything else you can find, keep them all crossed.
Thanks, mate. Thanks, guys.
I want to add a bit of context to this decision by Race Control, because I hear what Aaron Noonan has said about history here, but I think the difference in what has made the call for the safety car is not necessarily where that car is. I think it's the fluid on the racing line right in a very, very fast part of the circuit, and where some of the cars do have to have a little tap of the brakes, and that, I think, will have been in the minds of the guys in Race Control. There's the end of the accident. That has been a big hit on the walk.
Yeah, so I agree. The other point to make was that it was important to get medical to the driver of the 67 car. Even if he was uninjured, Laurie behind the wheel, we saw him climb out unaided and walk away from the car, but even though they did need to get medical to him just to make sure he's okay. So Jeff Laurie, we saw him get out, he's all right, but they do need to check. And yes, look, if one car can go there, another one can.
Exactly.
Whether there's 12 hours left or 15. So it's a decision, it's a tough decision that they had to make, but they've made it. That's the way it is. And we've got 14 minutes to go.
It's out of the way. They've taken it down that access road. The Pirelli outright leaderboard has Craig Lowndes leading. It's all going to close up. The top 7 are all in the Darrell Lee Class A, and the top 5, down to that Laurent Vanteur driven Audi in 5th position, are all on the lead lap, and they're all going to be in the line behind the M5 safety car. Earl Bamber and Alex Davison still battling it out in the GWS Personnel B class. As you can see, sitting on the Michelin class leaderboard. In Class C, it's the Lotus of Peter Leibhuis. In D, the Seat, the Century Batteries class leader. Luke Yulden in the Fiat in the Chrysler Group Finance. And for the Recaro Invitational class, it's still that Ford Focus.
This works perfectly for Craig Lowndes because there's a couple of slower cars between him. So as soon as the safety car gets to pit lane, Lowndes can go. Maxi Book cannot get past those lap cars before they get to the control line. Two of them are the little Fiat Abarth 500s. This works for Lowndes if this is a situation that you can say works for him, because he surrendered 17 seconds. But remember what I said before, the closest racing finish in this race is 6.7 seconds. I got to bet that it might be a bit closer than that one in a couple of minutes' time, Noons.
Stopped in at the Class B leading Grove Porsche team, and as I walked in, a team member from the McLaren squad walked in. They're going along the lane asking all of the teams that are in between them and the leaders to bunch up. They don't want to have big gaps for this next restart. They don't want to give away a free second or two or three to those guys up the front. So they're asking the Focus team, they're asking the Porsche team, bunch up, don't leave any big gaps. We need as much margin as we can.
Well, somebody who needs that margin to be there is the 88 team, Maranello Motorsports. We're not happy to see that yellow come out. They are still in the lead, and the time is still clicking off the clock. That is what's important right now. But if these guys can hang on for about the next 15 minutes, then they will go to victory lane.
How long can you hold your breath for, Crailsey? Because the next 15 minutes might just be like that. Craig Lowndes leads the motor race, gets on the power nice and early. The M5 is in the pit lane. There's no issue about him overtaking that car as he comes down to Maguire's. He's got the drop. And oh, the two Fiats come into the pit lane. That's great news for Maxi Burke and everybody who's coming through behind him. Big applause from Maranello Motorsport on the pit wall. Maxi Burke then in second place. He is charging up. Shane van Gisbergen, there he is in the McLaren going across the line. Heck, the speed on the start-finish straight when you see it from that whip pan on the camera. They are really hauling up Mountain Straight again. And the great thing for Craig Lowndes is the fact that there's 5 cars on the lead lap. He's not just racing one car, he's racing 5, but they're all racing each other as well.
So Lowndes has got ground on Maxi Book, and there's the Lamborghini in between. There goes Shane van Gisbergen in the 63 car just in front. That is for track position. That is for third on the road. For the podium, the Liqui-Moly 12 hour. So Van Gisbergen is in a prime position. They're going to have 4 or 5 laps maximum in this race in the next 11.5 minutes. 18:03 local time, 18:15 checkered.
18:13 plus a lap, that's what you're looking for. 18:13 plus 1 lap. And now we've had half a day's racing coming down to 10 minutes, to 600 seconds. And it is broken down like that because every single fraction is going to count. And already Shane van Gisbergen is on the back of the 63 car, and he's coming down the hill now, down from the top of the mountain. He can't afford to be patient. He's got to make the moves. This is like one of those challenges on a video game when you know you've only got a certain amount of laps and you've got to get by. There's going to be penetrated. There could be no quarter asked or given here, and Will Davison will know that. He's got a fast car in a straight line, and that's going to be the issue for the McLaren. We saw the Ferrari had trouble with the Mercedes-Benz earlier on. Has the McLaren got anything more in a straight line?
It's been better in a straight line than the Audis and the Ferraris this weekend, so I like Van Gisbergen's chance, but he's been unbelievable under brakes this weekend, so watch them go into the chase. This is for third, the longest race in Australian motorsport, and it goes down to the final 10 minutes of a day that has given us everything. It's been unbelievable. Lowndes about to come to the start-finish line now. Crosses the line, a 7.3 first rolling lap. 6.7 for Maxi Book. The gap's 2.4. Van Gisbergen will come to the line and does a 7.1, chasing Will Davison for third.
And they go down to the first corner, Hell Corner. You know, I've just thought the other thing that does help Lowndes, apart from the fact he can turn up the engine map and get a little more power out of that Ferrari, is he's got a clear track in front of him, at least for 3 or 4 laps, until he gets onto the back of that train. Then all hell breaks loose because everybody is so packed up. He's going to have to start taking risks that he wasn't doing before when he had 16 or 20 seconds. But first of all, Van Gisbergen has got to get past this 4th place car, this 3rd place car of Will Davidson. This is for a spot on the podium, but it's not about third place for Van Gisbergen. It's about someone who is another 8 seconds up the road, and that's the leader of this race, Craig Lowndes.
We've seen Van Gisbergen pass on the outside, the inside. He's almost driven undercars today. Do not put any corner out of the question for him to pull a move on Will Davison. But Davo's one of the best and brightest in the sport. He will be well up to this. Across the top of the mountain they go, the McLaren, following the thundering SLS Merc with bits of bodywork flying off at 220k across the top of the mountain.
Where is he going to make the move? We've seen him pull off some unbelievable manoeuvres in places that we've never seen passers made in the whole history of the racing on the mountain. 5 laps to go, we reckon, on time. It'll take us to 296 laps, and that would be a new distance record here for the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 hours. Again, the issue is the big talk of that big V8 Mercedes-Benz. There's no doubt in my mind that if it was a clear track and the leader was 8 seconds up the road, that Van Gisbergen would get to him. But there's not one but 2 Mercedes-Benz between him and the leader. Here's the second one, second place, and he's closing down on the leader.
It's 1.7 seconds, Craig Lowndes to Maximilian Buch. So Lowndes just playing the game. He's done this before, knows what it's all about. Ferrari versus Mercedes at the front. You start to worry if you're Craig Lowndes, if the Mercedes gets within a couple of car lengths, because it's so good in a straight line, it becomes very difficult to defend on the run up to the mountain and the 1.8 kilometre long run down Conrod Straight. That's the look down at HTP Motorsport. What a job that team has done today to get themselves back into contention.
And they fancy themselves. You can see that. There's nerves there, but that gap is going down. But once again, let's talk about the different strengths and weaknesses, relative weaknesses of these cars. The Ferrari is super fast over the top of the mountain. The Mercedes-Benz is very quick on the straights. This is a massive compromise circuit because you have 3 parts of the circuit, 1 very twisty, 2 very quick.
You cannot underestimate the experience factor.
Here's the traffic.
This is when mountain experience will pay off for Craig Lowndes compared to the young German that's chasing him down. This is where Craig needs to put every ounce of his laps and the experience he's gained and all his success at this place to absolutely drive this Ferrari as straight and square as he can to keep it in front of the flying Mercedes. But it's there. The gap's 0.4 of a second. There's 7 minutes to go and it's on for the lead.
And you know what? That Mercedes-Benz is doing a great job. Everybody getting out of the way of the leaders. Everybody will be on the pits to car radio. But I think that Mercedes-Benz might just be close enough here, you know, to have a little drag and have a look down Conrod Straight at 285 kilometres in about 15 or 20 seconds time when they turn right-handed into the chase. These 2 cars may well be side by side. Maxi Berg is giving it everything. No one can look down in the pit lane. Everyone is holding their breath, and the 6.5 minutes of racing still to go.
5/10, but the margin's redundant. It's all about track position and who can place their car the best to get to the checkered flag. Unbelievable battle, wow. And that it comes down to this is incredible. And Lowndes is right on the ragged edge through the kink in the chase, and look how close the SLS gets. If Lowndes can beat him off the mountain on the final lap of this, he'll be a chance because he'll drive that thing down the middle of the road. But if Maxi gets a run, it might be too tough for him to hold on.
Don't forget, we've seen the Mercedes-Benz changing the brake pads, and that may well be the difference in these cars, because I've been surprised at the pace of that Maranello Ferrari, but look at how much later that Mercedes-Benz is braking, and that, which I thought had taken them out of the lead, that might be the master stroke. We didn't know it at the time, and all of a sudden, it's coming to that HTP Mercedes-Benz as they go up the mountain straight. The leader is going to have to stay driver's right and send him the long way around into Griffin's Bend. Surely he can't come from that far around. They're side by side. He's gone through. He knows it's into the lead, but the Ferrari has the racing line and there's no way through. Racing room, Aston Given. Brilliant stuff from 2 top drivers. Craig Lowndes and Maxi Berg. Inches from disaster, but fight on into the last 5 minutes.
It's Mark Winterbottom and Jamie Whincup from October all over again. It's unbelievable how this place continues to deliver. What a finish.
We're based just off the media room here on the pit straight, and everybody is staring at the screens. The timing screen doesn't matter now. It's all about the last 5 minutes, 3 laps, possibly only 2, between these 2, 3, 4 cars and the winner's podium for the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 hours of 2014. Richard Krill, this has been another cracker, and it's not over yet.
I just want to confirm, I think Van Gisbergen's got past Will Davison for 3rd, so I think the McLaren could be on the podium. So, and Maxi Berg, held up. That could be the difference. 1st to 2nd in this motor race, and more lap cars for the SLS to deal with. Here's the move. This is the
round the inside in the folded tyres, hairpin, and nearly gets pushed into the wall. Don't forget the timing glitch on that 63 car. We need to always confirm those positional changes by seeing it on the track, because they lost their transponder when they lost most of the right-hand side bodywork of that car. It hasn't slowed them down. The lap traffic stays to driver's right, and Craig Lowndes has got breathing room. It's 18:11, 2 more minutes, and then 1 more lap after that. There's 2 more laps left of the motor race. It'll be laps 2:96, I think, as they go through. Paul Truswell nods. This is the battle for the final step on the podium, and these two guys, I think, are slightly holding each other up, and they're not getting back to the leading pair.
And they've already broken a distance record. 294 laps is the most ever completed in a 12-hour race, and there's more to go yet. So Paul Truswell's predictions of how far we go were absolutely bang on, and as expected. 3 minutes and 26 seconds to go. Lowndes, we can talk gap now. It's 1.9 seconds. That moment around the outside at turn 2 was everything for this motor race, because it just got book offline and gave Lowndes a little bit of breathing room, and the fight is on now for 3rd place. So let's take another look. Wild stuff on the outside, and Lowndes was in control of this, remember, because he can squeeze his opponent wide.
Yeah, on the Maguire's replay into Griffin's Bend. That was an awesome manoeuvre, and yeah, we held on to it. Oh, we've got it. No, we haven't. We thought we had the lead, but it's gone back. And look at how much it means for all these guys. They've worked for 4 days, not just this 12 hours. First and second are back together. And the leader gets held up. He's got to go one way or the other. Here comes Maximilian Burke down the middle, over the top of Brock Skyline, and there's nothing in it again. And actually, brilliant piece of driving for Craig Lowndes. He didn't commit himself one way or the other. He could have put himself offline and lost the lead. He knew that if he couldn't get past, neither could Maxi Burke. So he's controlled that. He's still going to have just enough, I think, as he comes out of the Falcon Tyres hairpin. It will be the last lap next time around, and this is going to be tight for 1st and 2nd, 3rd and 4th. Well, that's not over yet. If you can take a breath, do it now, because in the next 3 minutes we're going to find out who is on the podium, and it's been any 3 from 4 for the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 hours of 2014.
I bet Craig Lowndes wishes he had SLS-type top speed, because that's the weakness of the Ferrari. Remember, fresh brakes on this HTP Mercedes as well, and that's making a difference. We've seen it. We saw how deep he went 2 laps ago at turn 2 to go around the outside of Craig Lowndes, but all that experience and
in the middle of the road
of the V8 supercar legend held on in front. This is unbelievable stuff. 1:39 left on the clock. Not long to go in the 12-hour.
He can't move over on him from there. He has to take the racing line, otherwise he compromises the speed up the mountain straight too much. John Bow watching his teammate. He knows what's going on. We are on the last lap. Did we see the last lap ball go out? Have we got one more? I think this is the last lap.
18:13. 18:13 plus 1. Here goes Book. He'll try around the outside again, but Lowndes drives it down the middle of the road. He'll hold on.
Lowndes, he's got to be getting the power on nice and smoothly, and he does exactly that. I'm seeing one of the last 2 corners for the Mercedes-Benz, using the additional braking power that he's got. He's got to be right there. I don't think he's quite got the power. They've really turned up the Maranello engine on the bright red Ferrari. Craig Lowndes actually has done all right after the safety car period, saved a bit of fuel, and here comes the issue again. It's going to be down to the traffic. It's the Donut King Lotus and holds up the leader, but once again Lowndes positions his car right in the middle of the road, but here comes Burke round the outside into Brock Skyline. Last lap, half a lap to go for 2014 in the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 hours.
Spare a thought for Peter Edwards, who's put a lot of his own money and time into building his program with Mark Coffey at Maranello Motorsport. And what about John Bow and Mika Salo, the Flying Finn, who's done an outstanding job all weekend?
People are on the walls applauding this battle for the lead, and we're not over yet. The marshals are watching this just as much as we are. Down Conrod Straight for the final time. There's a 1/3 of a lap and 3, possibly only 2, outbraking manoeuvres left for Maxi Burke, and Craig Lowndes is putting it all on the line. This is for a Ferrari win. They've never won here. Maranello Motorsport, the emotions running high. This is Alan Simonson's car. Can they get this to the line? There's one more heavy braking down into Maguire's for the final time. The teams are on the pit wall, and he's not coming from that far back. He's not coming from that far back. Craig Lowndes brings home Alan Simonson's Ferrari and wins the Liqui-Moly 12 hours for 2014. Bathurst delivers.
The margin second. 4 tenths, John Hindhoff and Paul Truswell, after 296 laps and 1,835 kilometres of the best racetrack in the land.
I'm going to put my head in a bucket of iced water. Once again, the mountain lives up to the great race moniker. In October, it was the V8 supercars. This weekend, it's been the GT3s. Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 hours breaks all the records. Let's go down to the pits.
John Bowe, you just won the 12 hours of Bathurst. You suffered through penalties. You've gone through it all, but congratulations, you are the winner.
Yeah, well, we are the winners, the Marinello team. Those two guys, Craig and Mick, are unbelievable. Pete Edwards is a fantastic guy, fantastic driver. He's getting better all the time, and everybody that supports us. The guys, 2 guys came from Italy to help us out, so like it's pretty amazing.
Now, you drove with Alan Simonson last year. What does this win mean to you?
Well, I think it's great for the team. The last 3 years we've all driven together, and we haven't finished. So, you know, to finish and finish first is amazing. Even my age, I'm stoked.
We'll go celebrate on the podium, John.
Okay, thank you.
That is a man in the very early stages of a very big hangover as he walks away to the team. Marinello Motorsports have done it. There's a man in a green shirt down there. If we get a shot of him, it's Hector Lester, who put Alan Simonson in a GT car in British GTs many years ago and is masterminding now the career of Alan's brother Benny. And what about the race further back down? And look, Maxi Burke and Craig Lowndes, they knew they left nothing out there. That was everything.
Maxi Burke tried twice to wrangle the lead from the best, one of the best that this place has ever seen, and what a fantastic finish. Paul Truswell, the drama, and the safety car did close it up towards the end. It was a valid safety car. There was a bad crash at the top of Mount Panorama, but so much of that race was a natural, pure, raw endurance race where it all happened naturally.
Every good endurance race has 1,000 stories of what if and if only and all of those types of things, and there were so many of them, even in the last few minutes of that race. There could have been all kinds of tiny little things which happened.
Will Davison gets third. Can you believe that? After the day they've had, they couldn't, held out Shane van Gisbergen, the fastest driver around Mount Panorama, new outright lap record holder too, as the remaining cars come through. And it's almost sad in a way that we don't get to see that amazing battle towards the end. Boydo with more of the celebrations.
Yeah, down here with team principal Mark Coffey. Mark, I don't know if it's your greatest moment in motorsport, but it's certainly your most emotional. We're going to take these glasses off. Mate, congratulations. What a great result.
Great day in the office. Just, you know, we stayed out of trouble. We had a plan. We stuck to it. But Mick Casalo's stint, Craig Lowndes' last stint, just fantastic. What more could you ask for?
You've been coming here for years trying to take this one out. Today it's come on a year that you've given away the Alan Simonson Trophy. That must mean something special to him.
All the boys are pretty choked up, as you can well imagine. This was his place, his most fond place in the world to race, and we all miss him dearly.
Is Mark Coffey paying for the drinks tonight?
I think so.
Enjoy.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Cheers.
That's for everybody, by the way, watching and listening. Mark is in the chair tonight. The Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 hours for 2014 started in the half light of dawn at 6:15 this morning. Peter Cox, the first man to go out. The Lamborghini coming into contact with one of the local animals. Then a little bit of a bump and run by the 84 car. The 84 car in the lane with brake problems. And they had to fight their way back. The stories early on was about pace, about speed in a straight line. The Nissan of Rick Kelly certainly had that in spades.
Yeah, and that was a really strong car early on and looked like a contender. This was a big moment for the Compare Insurance Motorsport Lotus. It brought a safety car out, big lose at the chase. They would unfortunately DNF, and this was a wild ride for one of the Mark Ford Focuses towards the end.
Didn't hit anything though, got away with it. And the Clearwater Ferrari gets away with this, but the next time we saw it in strife, it certainly didn't. Already been in the wall, front suspension damage, spraying fluids everywhere, and spins on its own coolant. Causes chaos behind as people go left and right. Audi goes into the wall and bends the steering, but the big hit is yet to come. Look at the fluid on the track. Fluid and slick tyres don't mix, and up over the hill comes the Nissan GTR, and there's nowhere to go.
That was a massive impact. Fortunately, all the drivers walked away from that one. That was a very, very scary impact, and it stopped Godzilla's retreat return to the mountain early in its tracks, but they proved the point. They are fast and they are back. The Phoenix Racing Audi R8 was walking wounded for some of the day. They still finished fifth. This was Ross Lilly in the Lamborghini. Watch to the left of screen. Had a big moment early on at the top of the mountain as the leaders went through and crashed heavily into the wall. Fortunately, these cars are very safe, and Ross Lilly got out A-OK. This was a light-hearted moment, and this car was through so much today and almost ended up winning the motor race with Thomas Jaeger behind the wheel. I think had dramas with the gull wing door, and then Shane van Gisbergen, Mr. Excitement around the outside at Skyline, almost unheard of.
Then we started looking further up the field with issues and punctures for some of the Porsches, including the 12 car. And it was right rear that was the issue for some of those Porsche Class B cars. But Shane van Gisbergen and Bernd Schneider put on the Bernd and Shane's show for everybody. Oh, that's the lead's taken. Then it goes back to the Mercedes-Benz. You can't get two through the dipper, but they did. And everybody knows how close they were to disaster, even in the pit lane.
That was a remarkable piece of driving by two very good racing car drivers. And in the end, Erebus decided, no, we don't want to get in this, and they let van Gisbergen go. Then he attacked the Maranello Ferrari and drove the car off the road on the inside, trying to get through on Mika Salo. This was a big moment and possibly a costly one for a car that led for so much of today.
Yes, because although they got away with it there by just losing some of the bodywork, we'll see some issues for it later on. Porsche's airborne in the chase and down into the bunker, down into the top of the mountain. Just a slight misjudgment for the 63 car. Will Davison brought that car home to the end, and here is the possible problems. Maybe a stone or something from that off caught in the brakes, and problems in the pits. Well, they could have been costly for the 88 car. Look at the pit board on the right hand side, it's over the red line.
2 penalties today, remember, for Maranello, speeding in pit lane, 2 k's an hour over the limit. It must be said earlier on, this was the Phoenix Racing Audi. They had the same problem, a bit careless, left the pit board out, and they got stung for that as well. This was a race a little bit early on as Mika Salo tried to fight his way past Greg Crick.
Watch the dive down the inside. Greg Crick did his job, but Mika Salo got it done and went through. Then the change of brake pads. I called it out. Gone. No chance for that car, but it fought back and almost took the victory. And how close to disaster was Craig Lowndes here as he goes all 4 Michelins onto the greenery.
And this was the car that brought the safety car out at the end and set up that amazing finish. John, here are the results.
Pirelli outright leaderboard. Craig Lowndes takes it by half a second from Maxi Buck for Mercedes-Benz, and Will Davison in the 63 car in 3rd position. Those are the guys that will be on the podium with Lowndes.
Molly Bathurst 12 Hour has delivered. Did you like that? Bruce Morrison is here from Liqui-Moly to present the trophies. In 3rd place for Mercedes and Erebus Motorsport, Greg Crick, Jack LeBrock and Will Davison. In 2nd place, coming from Germany, the HTP Mercedes-Benz team. What a race at the end. Maxi Buck, Thomas Jaeger, last year's winner, and Harold Premat. And the winners, Ferrari has conquered the mountain. Maranello Motorsport, Mika Salo, Peter Edwards, John Bowe, and Craig Lowndes. Craig, come on in. Craig, come on in. We're running short on time. One quick question. Wow.
Look, it's a great honour to be part of the Ferrari guys, and obviously they were here this weekend for Al, and we did him proud, I think, at the end there. It was a hell of a battle. But look, to say hello to Levi and Chili back at home, but it's, yeah, look, it's a great race. I'm looking forward to next year already.
Well done. Ferrari win at Bathurst in the Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 Hour. It's time for the traditional spraying of the champagne.
So it's a new name on the trophy in terms of the manufacturer. Maranello Motorsport and Ferrari take the 2014 Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 Hours. And for this moment, we are all Danish and we are all sports car fans. It was for Alan. It certainly honoured his memory. Aaron Noonan on the podium.
amazing Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12-hour. Ferrari have conquered the mountain. Craig Lowndes finally adds a 12-hour title. He tried with Audi a few times, he never got there. John Bowe has won another Bathurst crown. And what about Peter Edwards too? And Mika Salo, all the way from Finland, picks up a trophy here at the mountain. What a special day it is for Maranello Motorsport and everybody involved. What an amazing race. We'll see you in 2015.
The 2014 Liqui-Moly Bathurst 12 hours is all long hold now racing